and since the offseason began, I should say, the 2024 salary shed, which is basically teams just releasing players and shedding salary, just cutting salary. The salary shed at the safety position is at $103 million total already. That's how much salary teams have shed total at the safety position overall. The cornerback position is the next highest. It's at 64 million. So the secondary period, but cornerback is still, we just saw it. Cornerback sound a big deal. Jalen Jones, you talked about that. Cornerback is fine. Cornerback is a premium position. That's not a trend that has developed, but that just shows you that teams are just trying to shed salary period. But the safety position is a position that isn't considered premium, but I'm a little surprised at the end that is trending this direction. It's going toward a market that is not in a depression. The running back market is in a depression. It's in a recession. The old Reagan quote, right? It's a depression, right? When you lose your job, it's a recession. When your neighbor loses theirs, right? The closer it is to you, that's when it's a depression. So it all depends on your perspective. But I think for the safety position, just because this is the first year we've seen it, that this could reverse. Maybe it is because you have a lot of really good safeties making a lot of money, veteran safeties, and they're trying to get younger at every team is doing this at the same time. That could be a coincidence, but usually it could be the beginning of a trend or a pattern as well. We saw this at the running back position a few years ago. And to me, it's a little, it's a little intriguing because the Cowboys, I'll give them credit, or I'll just point out the Cowboys as a trend, and Cowboys fans know this. The Cowboys have been doing this for a long time. The Cowboys have never prioritized safety in terms of value. In a salary cap league, essentially you have to decide what you want to spend on. You're basically on a fixed budget. Think of it like going to the grocery store, right? Most of us are on a fixed budget when you go to the grocery store. So you're buying essentials first, right? The things you need. You're going to get your meat, you get your eggs, you get your bread, whatever the essentials are. And then there are the non-essentials, kind of luxury items. If you like Oreos or if you want ice cream, whatever it may be. But you're probably going to gauge your spending depending on how much you spend on the essentials. Those are your premium positions in the NFL. That's your quarterback, that's your tackle, that's your edge rusher, that's your cornerback, that's your wide receiver. Then are they non-essentials? And essentially the Cowboys have always decided, well, you know what, we're going to skimp on safety. We're going to spend at other positions, but safety is a position that we're not going to spend high draft capital on, and we're not going to spend a lot of money in free agency. Even look at the guys that they have on the roster now, right? They got Jalen Kearse via free agency. They got Malik Hooker via free agency. They got Donovan Wilson late in the draft. And now, you signed those guys, but they outperformed their contracts, and you signed them to short contracts.
Yep.
You signed those guys to 2-year deals because you want to rent a safety. I guess they didn't want to own a safety. And I would say that at this point, it seems like a lot of other teams may be jumping on that trend as well, where they don't want to invest too much in the safety position. We've seen safeties turn to safety value drop in the draft over the last few years. You don't see a lot of safeties getting drafted high because it's not a premium position. And you also don't see a lot of safeties overall in the NFL who are young safeties make all-pro teams and Pro Bowls. Usually it's the veteran guys, right? It's older guys at the safety position that are getting those accolades. So it could be a trend where the NFL is trying to get younger, but keep in mind, the Cowboys, since 2013, 75% of the NFL have picked at least one safety in the first 2 rounds. The Cowboys have not, because the Cowboys just don't believe in drafting safeties high. Since 2002, the Cowboys have only spent like 1 pick in the top 125 on the draft on a safety. They're just not the way they operate. And I wonder if in this particular situation, with this particular trend, if the Cowboys were ahead of the game, and the rest of the NFL is figuring, you know what, we can skimp on the safety position. That's where we'll save money, is safety, while we're spending money on the premiums and the essentials. We're going to save money with the non-essentials. And there's no doubt, at least for this offseason, that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've seen that, teams will follow what the trend is. And once a few safeties got let go, everybody said, well, now the safety market's loaded, and that'll drive down the value. Supply and demand, simple, basic capitalism 101, supply and demand. Well, now there's way more supply than demand at safety. So why don't we get rid of our guy that we're paying too much for, and the price is lower? So why do we need to pay so much if there's this many available? And the issue will end up that some of these teams are going to end up on the short end of the stick, where they're going to let go of somebody and end up with somebody way worse. and not realize that they're, downgrading that much for probably not saving the amount of money they thought they were going to save. But at the end of the day, if you're able to make it work, as you said, with those value positions, then, we can look at what the Chiefs have done. And they've gotten the positions they want to have and they need to have, and they've let other ones go. And, we thought Tyrann Mathieu was so important to that Chiefs team. And then, now he's in New Orleans. And
they just signed him to
they just signed into a
deal.
situation. But they didn't need to. They kept moving right along without that position. And if you draft well enough, you can get away with doing this stuff. If you don't,
you really can.
Then that's where you get in trouble, because now you have to overspend because you'll be the last one. No one wants to go there, and then you get stuck.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like I said, I wonder if are we seeing what happened to the running back market happen to the safety market, or is it just an outlier? Just kind of a blip, if you will. But the free agent market at safety is as robust as I've ever seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it with this many really good players, man. It is plentiful. Xavier McKinney, Kyle Duggar, Justin Simmons was all pro last year, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe he was an all pro just last year. Like, they're cutting guys who were not only all pros in their careers, but guys who were just recently all pros.
Now Justin Simmons falls into a different category, because that's on the Broncos, who are in a huge issue right now because of the Russell Wilson deal.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying. But still, he's one of many. My point is, he was an all-pro last year. But you're right. Everybody's got their own individual circumstances, but there's no doubt across the board, we've never seen this many safeties get cut. Kevin Byard's out there, Julian Blackmon, Geno Stone, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. Talked about him yesterday for the Bills. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, Darnell Savage. We're talking about big money guys and small money guys. Rashawn Jenkins, Jordan Whitehead, Tracy Walker, Jordan Fuller. We've never seen it like this before. And like I said, the Cowboys have never spent on safety. And it seems like now the rest of the NFL is at least starting to agree with the Cowboys mindset that, hey, it's non-essential and we're not going to spend a lot of money and not a lot of draft capital. The draft capital thing's been happening for a while. You don't see a lot of safeties get drafted really high in the first round. But now you're starting to see it in the free agent market. Really, really intriguing. The running back market is also robust, right? But these are non-essential. These are non-premium positions. So I wonder now if we're going to start seeing the flooding of the free market and the free agent market with non-premium positions all the time, like linebacker and safety and running back. And then those guys, like Diana Rossini tweeted out this: many GMs are approaching this free agency as the running backs, linebackers, and safety markets to be similar to the past, lower deals than we imagine, depressed market for those positions, a lot of one-year deals. So if you need a linebacker, safety, or running back, I mean, this is the year where you can get them. You can get really good players on the cheap and for mercenary deals, 1 to 2 year deals. The Texans, I'm talking to you, Texans, because they need them all. They need linebackers.
Yeah, Caserio likes those mercenary deals too.
Yes, he does. Yes, the prove it deals. Prove it to me.
Yes.
And if you prove it to me, then maybe we'll sign you to a longer deal.
Wait, has Caserio been all in this whole time?
Maybe he may be an all-in guy this whole time. Who knew? He's teaching Jerry Jones how to do it. This is how you do it, Jerry. All right, we'll talk about the Texans later on and the Cowboys. Both of them need running backs, though, which is interesting. It's a really deep running back draft. We'll talk about that. Both of them actually need linebackers too. There's a linebacker there I think the Texans and the Cowboys should both be interested in. We'll discuss that a little bit later on as well. So we'll talk some NFL free agency coming up, but we got the behind the burnt orange curtain segment coming up next. We're going to get into this Christian Jones sound from my man Corey Mose, doing great stuff. Daniel Jeremiah has his post combine top 50 overall prospects. We'll talk about where the Longhorns land, and we'll look at Charles Davis's mock draft, his latest mock draft after the combine, and discuss where the Longhorns are slotted there as well. It is a Freak Flag Friday edition of the Rodcast with my man Patrick Davis as my co-host. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. We're coming right back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis here. Let's talk about the city of Austin. It's a great city. If you're sitting in traffic, you probably don't feel like that, but you realize that it is. It's got great culture, got great food, got great music, great people as well. And one of the things that we love about this city are the many iconic landmarks around town that make Austin so unique and so aesthetically pleasing. But what you may not know is that many of those iconic landmarks were actually created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482. This prestigious organization has been around for a really, really long time. They've helped build some of the best landmarks around the city, like DeCare Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, well, so does this great organization. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity, or maybe just a refreshing career change, or maybe you just want to feel valued by your employer, or maybe you want a new challenge, right now, Ironworkers Local 482 are hiring over 3,000 people. They have a huge project happening right here in Central Texas, and they want you to be a part of it. Matter of fact, they want you to be a part of this organization. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I have no skills in that industry, so why would I go into it? Well, they'll teach you the skills. All they need are people who are willing and who have a great work ethic, and I'm sure that's you. When you're working for Ironworkers Local 482, you'll take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. So maximize your potential and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself. Simply go online to apply at Ironworkers Local 482. Just go to ironworkers482.org. That's the website, ironworkers482.org. You go there, they have all the details. They got numerous different positions available. You can also go there and check out the benefits packages, the wages for all different positions, and you can check out the pension plan, and also you can look up the apprenticeship program. So go there, ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, let's get into some Texas football discussion. Daniel Jeremiah, who does a great job doing draft analyst work over at NFL.com, and he also covers the combine. He released his post-combine top 50 players, and I want to see where the Longhorns land. Top 50 prospects. Now, it's a big board, so he's not slotting anybody. He's not doing a mock draft, just the top 50 prospects overall and ranking them. He's got, for the Longhorns, he has got Byron Murphy at number 19. So it's a little bit lower than he was, I think, in the previous top 50 ranking, the pre-combine top 50. He's got A.D. Mitchell at 25 overall. I believe that's a little higher for A.D. Mitchell than the last previous top 50 ranking. And he's got X-Men at 41st overall. So the 41st prospect overall for my man X-Men. J.T. Sanders, who was at 46 in the previous mock draft, the previous top 50 ranking for Dan Jeremiah, he is out of the top 50, which doesn't surprise me at all, because I don't think he increased his draft stock. And a lot of guys, I believe, bumped their draft stock. And so that's what the Daniel Jeremiah top 50 post-combine is reflecting. Not a surprise there. I also looked at Charles Davis's latest mock draft. He also is of NFL.com. And he also, along with Lance Zierlein, Jordan Reed, and Dane Brugler, have 3 Longhorns going in the first round. Charles Davis as well has got 3 Longhorns going in the first round, if that is indeed the case. And he's also got X-Man going to Kansas City.
It's everybody's favorite.
Another one. That's the most popular mock draft pick right now among anybody who's doing mock drafts, is that Xavier Worthy is going to go to Kansas City. Charles Davis, Lance Zierlein, Jordan Reed, Dane Brugler, all who have 3 Longhorns going in the first round, all also have X-Men going to Kansas City. And Mel Kiper's pre-combine mock, can't wait to see his post-combine mock, also had Xavier Worthy going to Kansas City. So maybe Mel Kiper was ahead of the group there. But it looks like I said, if that actually comes to fruition, that would be phenomenal for Xavier Worthy. You couldn't ask for a better situation. And I do think for him, he'd be one of the best slight, fast receivers in the history of the combine if he does go to the right place, because half the battle in the NFL is your destination, where you land.
Yes.
You land with the right team, with the right coach. That's the right team and the right coach.
Yeah. Getting the opportunity to learn under the right people, play under the right people, get all of that, the training, and then have someone throwing you the ball and a coach calling you the right plays, as opposed to you're supposed to be the savior. You come in and you just make it happen with no one else around you.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have any real burdens as a rookie coming in. I mean, he really would go in there. I mean, Travis Kelce is their number 1 wide receiver. They like Rashee Rice going in there. Patrick Mahomes, of course. I mean, he the margin for error for everybody, it increases just because he's so good. Like you don't have to run the perfect route. You don't have to get great separation. He'll still make you look good. So he increases everybody's margin for error just because of how good he is. So if Xavier Worthy goes there, I think he could have 1,000 yards in like this second or third season as a receiver. I'm not joking.
And you throw in the fact
he could become the number 1 guy for them, the number 1 receiver.
Yeah, and you throw in the fact that Valdez-Scantling was cut earlier this year too, in this offseason. So you throw in that and you say, well, they don't really even have a number 2 right now behind Rashee Rice. So if you put him there, he'd be playing pretty quickly into the league as well, making an impact against on the other side for Rashee Rice. And then you have Travis Kelce. He'd be able to, if he's on the Chiefs, there would be a chance he could get into the Rookie of the Year conversation solely in the fact that Patrick Mahomes could hit him for some big, and you could just see his stats go through the roof on some big plays.
Yeah, and honestly, they probably would put him on punt return. I don't know who their punt returner is right now, but he's one of the best punt returners in college football. We don't talk about that enough, but he'd have a lot to offer for the Chiefs. Okay, Charles Davis did have Byron Murphy going to the Seattle Seahawks at 16. He had A.D. Mitchell going to the Buffalo Bills at 28. That's also a popular mock draft pick. I've seen that in a couple of places. And, of course, we just talked about it. He's got Xavier Worthy going 32nd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. My man Corey Moses has been doing a really good job of covering the combine. He works for KVU. He does a great job for them, but he's been covering the combine lately and covering the prospects going out, getting some really good insight and some really good information. And he did it again because he had Phil Yates on and talked to Phil Yates, an ESPN analyst who covers the draft. Talked to him about Christian Jones, and my man Corey Mose had it was a really good insight, and you can go check it out at Corey_Mose. He has it out there on his Twitter account. But here's the audio of Phil Yates giving his breakdown and synopsis of Christian Jones and how his draft stock continues to increase.
I liked him on tape all season. I mean, that's a big, long, powerful offensive tackle who's got a ton of experience. I mean, 6 years at Texas, so he's played a lot of football. He, to me, though, during the pre-draft process, says just continue to go up and up and up. Had a good week down at the Senior Bowl. Strong, moved well at the combine. Like I thought, all the athletic testing that actually matters for offensive linemen was good for Christian Jones. At some point, you get to the spot where you find guys that you just know you can win with. And I feel like he fits that bill. It wasn't like a 7-time somehow. I don't even know if you could do 7 times. 7-time all Big 12 academic player as well. So the character is very good as well there for Christian, which does not hurt when you're doing the equation.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Jones has continued to rise up draft boards. I mean, this at one point he was just considered a late round pick, and now he has gone from late round pick to what a lot of people project as a mid-round pick, that he's going to be drafted somewhere in the 4th round. You know, maybe a team will draft him in the 3rd round, but that's where teams see him. So he's done a really good job of the process. What I like about his game, I think coaches like about his game, he's coachable. You know, he's coachable. I mean, he's gotten better every year. His tape shows that from year one. I mean, he was a 6th-year guy, but he got better every year at Texas and ended up, you know, obviously having his best season his last season. And the belief is that he's got more upside, that if he gets better coaching, that if he continues to develop, and think about it, this is a guy that in freshman year in high school, he weighs 100. He weighs like, I think now he's 3. He played at 318. He weighed in at 305. He was around 210 pounds his freshman year in high school. And he was around 6. I think he was around 6 foot. He was around 6 foot, 205 pounds. And now this guy has gained an extra 100+ pounds and has grown 3 inches. So he hadn't really been comfortable in this frame very long. You're talking about maybe 7, 8 years in this particular frame, having this kind of mass on his body. He thought he was going to be a soccer player when he was younger. So he's got really good feet because he was pursuing soccer early on. And I think ultimately, yeah, this guy has impressed in interviews because he's really smart. But if you're looking at the NFL projection, they project him as a guard. So any athletic liabilities he had on the outside, the tackle, are now, if you're looking at him at guard, they are not as, they're not as impactful in terms of your evaluation, because you see him as a guard. His athleticism as a guard actually will be an asset for him and not a liability, like it is kind of on the outside.
Yeah, you give him a better chance to succeed. And so, I think Phil Yates right is to go if you put him in that tackle, then there's that risk factor in it a little bit more, but at guard, it takes away a lot of that risk. And you say, well, worst case scenario, he's a guy who could probably play in the league for 7, 8 years and, and be a valuable guard on our team in a rotation or a backup guard. And best case scenario, he's our starting guard for the next decade.
Yep.
So I think you could flip it that way, but I think at guard, the floor is a lot higher than at tackle, where the floor could be, okay, well, he maybe get beat a little bit more by edges, or maybe there be some issues there. I think at guard, I don't know if there's going to be that many issues.
Yeah, longer NFL career and a much higher upside at guard for Christian Jones. But at least you also have a guy that you could move around if you need to.
Yeah.
He's got versatility since he played tackle in college, so maybe he does manufacture some depth for you. So there you go. Christian Jones rising up draft boards too. Seems like a lot of guys from that combine have increased their draft stock. We come back. We got the big fat poll of the day from my man Patrick Davis that always sparks a lot of conversation on the Specs text line, 512-447-3776. We'll get back to it. We'll also hit some of the other big headlines of the day. But the big fat poll of the day coming up next, my man Patrick Davis. So stick around. This is the Rodcast right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. I got to tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert, and I'm happy to talk about it because he's someone close to my heart. I actually owe Dr. U a huge debt of gratitude. Went in there just for a normal cleaning and a checkup, and then learned from some x-rays and some great work by Dr. Greg Eckert and his all-star team that I had my wisdom teeth growing in sideways, and they had to take care of that immediately before it became a huge problem, before it became a dire situation for me. That's exactly what Dr. U did. He and his staff, they were fantastic. They eased my anxiety. Of course, I had anxiety about that. Who wouldn't? I had to have all of my wisdom teeth removed, but they educated me about the process, made sure to inform me about all the steps in the process, and I was done with the surgery and back at work within 2 days after having my wisdom teeth removed. And I'm going to see Dr. Eckert again just to make sure that everything is on the up and up. But I feel great, and because of my visit to Dr. U, my dental health and my dental hygiene now are actually something I don't have to worry about anymore. All I do is have to keep going to Dr. U to make sure that I keep up with my checkup. So it may not be something as dire as that for you, right? Maybe you don't have to have your wisdom teeth removed in an emergency situation, but maybe it's just you have to have your teeth cleaned, or you have to have a checkup, or maybe it's anything having to do with general dentistry. Maybe you haven't been to the dentist in a long time. Like me, it was a situation where I hadn't been going in a long time, and you're a little bit worried about, man, it may end up being a massive project. Maybe there's something really going on. I would encourage you to get it done, folks. Your dental health and your dental hygiene are really, really important to your overall health. You don't want to ignore that. So whether it's general dentistry or teeth whitening or dentures or porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, root canal therapy, it doesn't matter what it is. Just go visit Dr. U, Dr. Greg Eckert, and his fantastic team. They can handle all of that. Anything it takes to make sure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's their top priority. You are their top priority. We call him Dr. U because it's appropriate, right? It's all about you because he gives you the best quality dental care available. He's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry. He's got great intellectual curiosity, and he also has the ability now, because of that intellectual curiosity, to give you a brand new smile in just one day. You won't find methods like this anywhere else, folks. We're talking about a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile. You're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, just call Dr. U today to learn about this complimentary consultation. So it seems you got nothing to lose but everything to gain. 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. Or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com.
Back here on the Rodcast on a Friday morning, a 512 Friday morning here on the Rodcast, where we play local music. You can go check out around town this weekend, and this week it'll be around town this weekend, and then some next week, because we are getting in to the South by Southwest Madness, and people are playing all over. And I'd recommend, if you like any of these songs, to go check out the band's website or social media, because they're probably playing 15 shows in the next 3 weeks. All these people, and the people I've talked to say, "Hey man, are you playing a show?" And they go, "Here's a list of 10." And so a lot of these guys are playing a lot. This is A Giant Dog. They're playing tonight at Hotel Vegas. They're a big part of that, headlining that show tonight. If you want to go check them out. But yes, all these bands probably playing a bunch. We'll showcase a couple of South by shows as well. It'll be a fun chance to, if you enjoy local music, if you enjoy getting out and seeing some. I know South by Southwest, it scares some people away, but the benefit of it is there's a lot of places around the town. If you don't want to go downtown, if you want to go, I know there's stuff out in Buda and stuff in Dripping Springs and stuff everywhere where people will do shows outside where they'll put together really good lineups that are not necessarily. So probably around your neighborhood, somewhere near where you live, there's going to be a really cool show happening. So you can keep your eye out for those. We can't play them all because there's, I don't know, imagine 2,000 shows happen in the next couple of weeks, something like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's so many shows.
It's gonna be madness out there.
It will be madness.
It's gonna be fun.
It's always, it's if you can find the right way in and out, and you know what you're doing, you can enjoy it quite well. All right, let's get to that big fat poll of the day, Rod.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. Poll of the day. We talked, I said in the Horn headlines, Madison Booker had an amazing freshman season for the Texas women's basketball team. She was a Big 12 freshman of the year, also Big 12 co-Big 12 player of the year with Skylar Van out of Oklahoma. But a freshman winning also player of the year honors in the conference is a big step. So I want to take that over to the football world with our recruits and ask you, which freshman will have the biggest impact for the Longhorns next season? Which freshman for the Longhorns football team will have the biggest impact next season? You can go Colin Simmons on the edge. Ryan Wingo has gotten a lot of good reports at wide receiver. Maybe it's Kobe Black or Filsamy out there in the secondary. Maybe Jarrett Gibson comes in as a running back and gets some carries like C.J. Baxter did last year. Maybe Brandon Baker has to come in and play some on the line. I mean, there's a number of big recruits that are coming into this Texas team. So asking on text line 512-447-3776, which freshman will have the biggest impact for the Longhorns next season?
It's good. You hope it's Colin Simmons.
You do.
It is.
I mean, I think you hope it's Kobe Black too, though.
Yeah, but you got more returning in the secondary.
You do have guys returning,
right,
because Manny Muhammad's coming back, Jade Barron's coming back, Terrence Brooks will be back there. And then you've got Mukuba in the secondary.
Yeah, exactly.
So, they may not, but we also know rotations have been big. We know how much Manny Muhammad ended up playing last season in the secondary as well.
Yeah.
And
they like rotation. That's a good point, but you need an edge rusher. What you couldn't do last year, you created pressure, but you couldn't seal the deal, right? You couldn't get to the quarterbacks for those splash plays in the backfield. And I think maybe the hope is that now with more natural pass rushers on the edge, Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, that you'll be able to cash in on some of that pressure and convert it to sacks and splash plays now, and negative plays.
Yeah, and I think Colin Simmons is the one, especially as you get later into the season. That's the one, especially because early on you expect, Ethan Burke to be out there more and Benda and like some of those guys to be in that position a little bit more early on. But as you start to get a little bit later, he maybe a couple more plays because he'll be playing early on, but how many downs will he be in for? How many big plays will he be in for to have him try and be ready? So if you get back to the playoffs and now you're playing in big games and you need to pressure the quarterback, you have another guy that you feel can go do that.
Yeah, I agree. You're right about that. Early on, of course, he'll be drinking water through a fire hose. But by the end of the season, kind of like Manny Muhammad, kind of like Derek Williams, you expect those young guys to, essentially be playing like veterans.
Yeah, you need him to come in. But that's the question of the day for you guys. Colin Simmons is the easy one, but you could say we know that Jonte Cook, everyone raved about him at the combine, and Isaiah Bond is going to have a great season for Texas. You got the transfers in Bolden and Golden. coming in at wide receiver. But does Ryan Wingo earn a spot on there as well after some good reports? Does he come in and have some big plays, build a chemistry with Quinn Ewers, and we see him get some more? We know, and Jared Gibson's an interesting one as CJ Baxter. Hopefully he'll be another year into strength and training and be a little bit, more sturdy on the field. But if we look at how many times he had to come off last year, does Jared Gibson come in and get some carries at the running back position? I think is another interesting player that when you say the running back position, we know, he's going to be a good young running back. What can his impact be? So that's the question on the text line. 512-447-3776 is that number.
All right, good stuff with the big fat poll of the day. We come back. We'll continue with a Freak Flag 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast, coming back right here on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And my man Patrick Davis, the Idealionaire, the co-host of the Rodcast. He always comes up with musically themed days of the week, and it's a 512 Friday, which means he is playing jams from local bands and artists who you have a chance to enjoy live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is The Waters, and they are playing Saturday at Saxon Pub.
The Waters.
The
Okay,
Waters.
like that.
It is the last
like
name of the couple in this band.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. I thought it was something deeper than that. I always wonder.
Well, Waters, is that a pun?
Yeah, well,
Deep Waters.
With band names, you never know. I mean, you just never know what the inspiration was for the name. Sometimes it's something really deep and existential, and sometimes it's like, no, that was just.
Oh no, I thought you said
somebody's name.
I thought you thought it was deeper because their name was the Waters and Deep Waters.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I get your dad joke too. Bow. Yeah, I ignored the dad joke. I apologize.
Just rolled right through.
Just rolled right through your pun there. Just boom. Just kept going. Just trampled it. You know what I mean? But I apologize. I'm a dad now, so I should get the dad jokes better. You're not even a dad, and that was a good dad joke. But yeah, I mean, I never know. I always wonder about that. It's probably one of the common questions I'd have for bands and artists. Like, hey, who came up with the name? Like, what's the
I can tell you, being with enough bands, being around enough bands, and helping name bands. It's a lot of times it is just sitting in a room being like, here's like 30 options. We don't like any of them.
Exactly.
We just got to figure out something. We just have to, like, we've already booked gigs. We just got to figure out something now.
So there's usually no very like deep process about it.
There's sometimes
we gotta come up with something.
like there's sometimes because there's people that have had like a band name in their head forever, and then that's the reason. But a lot of times it is literally just, okay, we just have to get a band name. We have the songs that mean things, but the band, it doesn't. And you're trying to get like 3 or 4 or 5 different people to all agree on something, because then it means something to the singer, but it's also the guitar player's writing the songs. So he's like, well, this means nothing to me.
No, that's a good point. And if you're a musician throughout your life, you're obviously a musician, and that's what your profession is. You're with a lot of different bands.
Yeah.
So it's almost like being in radio where you do a lot of different shows and you have to come up with a different name for every show. And then sometimes you just got, like, man, we just need a name. We got to come up with a name. We got like 3 or 4 days to do it. So let's just throw it out there, spitball, and see what the best options are. And then you end up with whatever. Ball don't lie.
Well, and then
whatever it is.
And then you also have to, with bands now, you go, okay, well, we got a name. Let's Google it. Well, there's 4 other bands with that name, so we can't have that.
Can't have that. That's already a popular band in Cleveland.
Yeah, we got
killing the Cleveland scene.
All the social media handles are already taken. We got to pick something else now. Yeah.
That also will play a big role. So there you go. My man Patrick Davis always hooking us up on a 512 Friday. Speaking of 512, that's what the number to the text line starts with, 512-447-3776. Hit us up on the text line. Got a lot of topics that we're diving into today. Talking a little Texas basketball. Of course, they got a big game coming up versus Oklahoma. We're still uncertain about what's going on with Dylan Dessou and that timeline. Texas baseball actually has a huge series because they're on a 4-game losing streak. First time since 2019 that Texas baseball has been on a 4-game losing streak, and they're trying to break that losing streak in Lubbock against a really good Texas Tech squad that's also, I believe, ranked 17th. 17th, there.
Yes.
So that's a good Texas Tech squad to try to go in there. And we know anytime Tech plays Texas anything down in Lubbock, it's going to get rowdy. It's going to be crazy. And this is one of the last, if not the last sport.
It's one of the last. I know there's still matchups between the two, but I don't know if they're going to be in Lubbock.
Go to Lubbock,
because like golf still has to play Lubbock, I think, or still has to play Tech, and like there's different matchups and then tournaments that everybody's going to be involved in. But I don't know if they're technically in Lubbock. And I definitely not one of them. And like team sports like this of a thing like that, I don't know how many more there would be, because basketball's already done it, football has already done their last one, so now baseball is having their last one. And it's and they're both ranked.
Yeah, and we saw how rowdy it was for the basketball.
Maybe softball
team.
still has to go up there. I don't know if softball's gone
Could
up there
be.
yet.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it, but I know it's one of the last matchups for a Texas sport in Lubbock. So you know it's going to be crazy. You know it's going to be rowdy. That's how the Red Raiders like to do it. So Texas will be. They'll have to focus down there in Lubbock. And Lubbock's actually, I mean, Texas Tech's actually a really good baseball team. And Texas pitching has been struggling. As a matter of fact, my man Nash at Nash Talks Texas had a really good deep dive breakdown about the Texas pitching and about hitting historically for David Pierce's teams while he's been at Texas. We'll share that with you too. It's a really good breakdown. I will give him some props as well. All right. Before we get to the big stories of the day, we're going to talk Cowboys and Texans in free agency a little bit. We'll also get into what's going on with the safety market right now in the NFL. It seems to be exploding. The free agency safety market definitely going through a recession, maybe not a depression. The market right now for the safeties is unlike anything we've ever seen. So we'll talk about that, why that is the case. We'll also get into the Cowboys and the Texans, who both need running backs, and this is also a very robust running back free agent market as well. So we'll talk about that coming up. There's also my rant. There's something I'm noticing too, a pattern in the NFL that I think is kind of going against the grain of football logic to me. It's counter to football logic. I don't really get it, but it's definitely something now that has become more and more common, and I'll try to break it down. Even I have not necessarily figured it out, but I definitely have been able to see the trend, and I will discuss that coming up in Rod's Rant of the Day. So we'll have a little football theory one-on-one coming up in Rod's Rant of the Day. All right, before we do that, let's hit the horn headlines, get informed and educated about the top stories of the day. Then we'll come back and dive deeper into some of those topics. All right, Patrick, hit us with the horn headlines.
It's your Horn Headlines, brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The Chicago Bears and Jalen Johnson agreed to a new 4-year, $76 million contract yesterday. According to sources, the deal includes $54 million in guaranteed money, with $28 million in the first year of the deal. Johnson, who was franchise tagged on Tuesday, produced a career-high 4 interceptions, 10 passes defended, 1 forced fumble last season while being selected to the second-team All-Pro. Mavericks got a much-needed win last night over the Heat, 114-108. The Mavs, who had dropped 3 in a row before this win, were led by yet another 30-point triple-double from Luka Doncic, his 5th in a row. Luka will try and notch his league record 6 in a row tomorrow night as the Mavs take on the Pistons. The Spurs lost a close one against the Kings when Sabonis got a steal and dunk with 8 seconds left to take the lead, and the Spurs were unable to hit a game-winning 3 or putback. Devin Vassell led the Spurs with 30 points and 9 assists in a game that Victor Wembanyama missed due to his sprained ankle. Wembanyama is being evaluated and could rejoin the team as soon as Saturday against the Warriors. Both Texas men's and women's basketball teams will be in action on Saturday as the women, led by Big 12 Freshman of the Year and co-Big 12 Player of the Year Madison Booker, take on the winner of tonight's Kansas and BYU game in the Big 12 tournament. And the men's team will celebrate senior night at the Moody Center facing Oklahoma. Dylan Dessou, who sprained his knee Monday night against Baylor, is listed as questionable for the game. And finally, Texas baseball begins Big 12 this evening. Big 12 play this evening, and Lubbock looking to get back on the winning track against number 17 Texas Tech. LeBaron Johnson will take the mound on Friday. However, Cody Howard will move into the Saturday slot, with Charlie Hurley moving to Sunday after he had to throw 27 pitches out of the bullpen on Tuesday. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate all of Patrick's hard work, especially on a 5-1-2 Friday. We'll get back to some of the top stories of the day. I want to talk some NFL free agency. I want to get into the recession happening while with the safety market and free agency. But my man at Nash Talks Texas, really good breakdown here about Texas baseball. I was just teasing this. According to my man Nash's deep dive here, because he went down the rabbit hole. Like I said, you can see it yourself at Nash Talks Texas. He put out there via Twitter. He said, here's how the 2024 Texas Longhorns pitching staff compares to the other David Pierce coach teams through their first 12 games. And he goes back to, obviously, David Pierce's first year here on the 40 acres. He said this is easily the worst year so far for pitching under David Pierce, but the strikeout numbers give him hope that maybe that things could turn around for the pitching staff, that maybe they're just starting slow and that they'll find their groove. But he also points out that this is the best hitting hitting team that he's had through the first 12 games of his tenure here at Texas, of any team that he's had. He said, opposite of the pitching, this is easily the best start for a David Pierce-led team hitting the baseball. If the pitching gets figured out, this could be a dangerous team. So the offense is not the issue. They're knocking the hell out of the baseball right now. If you go look at it, even I think right now the pitching staff, in this losing streak, I should say, I believe they have over a 9 ERA they're allowing during this losing streak. That's to me the biggest issue right now for them. The pitching staff hasn't really found their groove, and if the pitching can catch up with the hitting, I mean, Texas will be playing some of the best baseball in the country, because right now there's nothing wrong with the offense.
Yeah, and I mean, there'll be peaks and valleys throughout the season on everything, but you do hope that this pitching staff is going to be able to start to figure it out, because it's not even down to one guy. It's not like one or two of their pitchers are having a rough start. The entire pitching staff is having a rough start. Even LeBaron Johnson, who's supposed to be your ace, has not had the impact that you were expecting him to have so far early in the season. I know there's parts of it where they were throwing way too many balls early in the season. Their strikeout numbers, I believe he mentioned in there in that piece, he mentions that is a promising thing to look at, that maybe if those spots get hit a little bit better, and maybe if they find that accuracy, start to find the strike zone, maybe, they were possibly pitching with a extended strike zone in training camp where they thought they may have gotten some pitches they were not getting by the umpire so far this season. That could be an issue. Whatever it is, they're just missing by a little bit. Sometimes you miss up, those are hits. Sometimes you miss down, and it's a ball, and it's hard to hit that spot. Everybody knows that. So for these pitchers, if they can start to hit their spots, then it looks like this team does have some movement on the ball. They do have some good things going for them. Just missing spots right now.
Yeah, and looking to bounce back, like I said, a 4-game losing streak. It is the longest losing streak for Texas baseball since 2019. All right, we'll talk some Texas basketball a little bit later on, too. Some people think this Texas basketball squad could be dangerous. If all the pieces fall into place for them at the right time. They're running out of time for those pieces to fall into place. And I think the most important piece, Dylan DeSue, we're uncertain about his status for the Oklahoma game. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, because they have a big matchup coming up versus Oklahoma. And then, of course, the Big 12 tournament for the Texas men's basketball team as well. All right, 512-447-3776. That is the number to the text line. Also, the text line, there's conversation happening there about the big fat poll of the day, which my man Patrick introduced to the people last segment. Give them another review of the big fat poll of the day, which we'll get to some of the responses on the text line 512-447-3776.
Which freshman will have the biggest impact for the Longhorns next season? We're already starting to see some Colin Simmons, lots of Colin Simmons rolling in.
Lots of Colin Simmons rolling
in. And we hope that he does. We hope that he does.
Yeah.
But, I will tell you, there are some other guys. Kobe Black and Phil Simi could have big plays. They could have a big impact. I think, we'll say, I think both those guys are going to see the field next season plenty because of the rotations, because of, the injuries that happen. The secondary guys are going to have to come off. You're going to run deep routes against them. There is going to be an issue. Those guys will see the field. We don't know how much, but we know they will see the field. Those guys are in there. And then Jarrett Gibson at running back, he could very easily see the field, and Brandon Baker as well. Colin Simmons is going to be the question. He's going to play, but they do have some veteran talent that's going to be there as well. And then you throw in Trey Moore coming in. Do you hope Trey Moore becomes the guy this season and Colin Simmons becomes the guy next season to be the best pass rusher? But it's an interesting poll. Who will be the best freshman? Who have the biggest impact for the Longhorns next season? And it really could come down to, we know for freshmen, it could be 2 or 3 plays could end up having the biggest impact at the right time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Ryan Wingo could end up having an impact as a red zone target. You don't have a lot of big receivers. Sark likes slight, small-ish guys in his receiving core. We see that with Xavier Worthy and guys that he's had over the years. Go look at those Bama receivers like Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle. Not big receivers, but speed demons. And at times in the red zone, maybe a bigger target like an A.D. Mitchell, who was the top target in the red zone for Texas last year, where they were 120th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. You may miss a guy like that. J.T. Sanders, was a big target for them in
Yeah.
the red zone because he was a bigger target. They'll be missing some of those. I mean, you can look at Gunnar Helm and Amari Niblack as bigger targets, but the truth is those guys, they're not as well-rounded in terms of a skill set as, and they were not a matchup nightmare like a JT Sanders. And AD Mitchell had great size too. You're talking about a guy that was 6'3", that also could threaten guys in the red zone and go up and get those 50-50 balls. You don't have anybody like that on your roster right now. It seems like Ryan Wingo would be that guy. He's about 6'3", about 210, and he's just a physical specimen, just raw material. And that's not asking a lot in terms of him to process the offense and learn the offense if you're going out there throwing him just red zone routes and asking him to go win in one-on-one situations. So I could see him throwing out there as a guy because he's got freakish talent, and it's hard to keep a guy with that kind of combination of speed, explosiveness, and size off the field. So he may be another guy if Sark expands that circle of trusted wide receivers, which I expect that he will.
I think he has to this season. I mean, and the fact that he has to expand it because it included none of the receivers that will be in it this season. None of them were in that circle of trust last season. So
that's very true.
So he has to expand it whether he wants to or not, or else he's not throwing the football next season.
He'll, obviously the guy he brings in, but usually his circle of trust is about a 3 or 4 wide receiver, circle, or if you will, group and core. And I think this year you got Isaiah Bond, you got Jonte Cook. Those are your top 2. I think you're going to throw Silas Bolden in there. You got Matthew Golden. I mean, just because he brings you in doesn't mean that you're going to crack that circle of trust as Isaiah Nayor, right?
Yep.
He didn't crack. A lot of people thought he would. Injury concerns and other things. Those are 4 guys. I just threw in Ryan Wingo because I like Ryan Wingo a lot. Some people really like DeAndre Moore. I don't think you get past 5 in his circle. I don't think at Alabama that was the deepest that it got when you had Waddle, you had Ruggs, you had Devontae Smith out there. Mechie was a part of it. Jerry Jeudy, and that was the 5. And I don't think you get past that. And Sark will potentially break out his he had the red package at Alabama, which is 4 wide receiver package, 10 personnel, 1 back, 0 tight ends. It'd be nice if he could break that out and every now and then. I'm not saying use it, a ton. It shouldn't be the staple, but he can sprinkle it. There could be a complementary personnel grouping where you can blitz opposing teams with a ton of speed. Put Jaden Blue in the backfield and imagine, Jonte Cook with Isaiah Bond on the field, with Matthew Golden, with a Silas Bolden or Ryan Wingo or whatever, and then Jaden Blue in the backfield. That is a lot of speed to account for if you're a defense. And most of the time, defensive coordinators will probably just call a timeout. And try to put speed on the field to match it because somebody's going to be at a matchup disadvantage when you got that much speed on the field. So that is something to consider. All right. Good conversation there with my man Patrick talking about the big fat poll of the day. All right. Let's, let's jump right into Rod's rant and we'll discuss this safety market that has become such a recently depressed, or at least it's on its way to being a depressed market in free agency. Let's do it. Yeah, the safety market right now in the NFL is absurd. We've never seen this many safeties, really good safeties, hit the free agent market. And a lot of people are wondering if the safety position is headed in the same direction as the running back position. And we know the running back market has been depressed for a couple of years now. And there's a devaluing of that position. Could we be seeing that same devaluing at the safety position? The recent cuts and releases this offseason have led to $103 million of salary being shed at the safety position across all the NFL teams. The next closest number is $64 million of salary being shed at the cornerback position. There is no position that is seeing the cuts, the hatchet jobs that we're seeing at the safety position right now. And it's good safeties. I mean, you're talking about guys who are all pros. Justin Simmons was the latest. That guy was an all pro just last year, just a couple of years ago. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, all pro caliber players. Quandre Diggs, he's a Pro Bowl. Jamal Adams is another all pro player. I don't know if we've seen, and the running back position, I think it reflected a very similar trend and pattern when you had really good running backs who just couldn't get paid even on the free agent market. But I think this may be different, or maybe it is the NFL starting to look at the safety position as a non-essential position, which I don't understand. This is why, because I always talk about the central nervous system of a defense, the spine of the defense, which is right up the center of the defense, your communication center. That's your safeties. That's your linebackers. These are the guys who are making all your checks and audibles. They're the air traffic controllers of your defense. And now, from my understanding is, the NFL, when they're looking at premium positions, essentially on defense, they're looking at guys who can win one-on-ones. Think about it. What's the premium positions on defense? They're cornerback and their edge rushers. Those are your two premium positions, or outside linebackers, however you want to describe them, right? Those are your premium positions. Essentially, those guys get to work in space, right? You're working on in space on the outside, winning one-on-ones, one-on-one with the tackle for the edge rushers and defensive ends, and one-on-ones with the cornerbacks and the wide receivers. Everybody else on defense pretty much has to work in a quantum realm almost, where they have to solve multiple problems simultaneously, right? If you're a linebacker, you got the RPO game to worry about. You got more running backs involved in the passing game ever to worry about. You got dual threat quarterbacks that are deciding they're going to run at the last minute, or they're going to use design runs. If you're a linebacker, you have to solve multiple problems on any given play. You got to have guys who have extremely high football IQ. You got to have guys who are versatile defenders, because they got to do so much. They got to blitz, they got to drop back in coverage, they got to cover man to man, they got to stop the run. You need versatile defenders, and you need high IQ defenders, because like I said, you're going to be solving multiple problems, and you're never going to be able to do that without having an offensive lineman coming to block you or another offensive player coming to block you. And everything is convoluted, and everything close to the ball happens faster. The closer you are to the ball, the faster the action happens. So you need guys that can process mentally very quickly. So what? High football IQ, extremely high football accuracy, and the ability to process things very quickly. And that happens at safety too, right? Because at safety, everything's not so clear, but at least you get, because they move these guys around, they rotate them before the snap. Sometimes they're playing in the box, sometimes they're blitzing. Sometimes these guys are playing deep as center fielders. You do a lot of different things with your safety. Your cornerbacks are doing less. Now, athletically, you may ask more from your cornerbacks in terms of the freaks they got to line up against the wide receiver wise. Same thing with your edge rushers, right? They got to go against these offensive tackles who are just the biggest and the most impressive athletes on the field at tackle. But I think in terms of the mental burden and the process of being able to diagnose and decipher plays, everything inside that central nervous system, up that spine, like I said, it happens quicker. And if you'll notice, go look at the all-pro teams, you're starting to see a trend. Now, there are outliers every now and then, but the all-pro teams, you're starting to see the cornerbacks on the all-pro teams. They make the all-pro team earlier in their careers. Second, third year cornerbacks, right? Hell, Sauce Gardner, first year he made the all-pro team. It was the first time since Ronnie Lott that a rookie made the first team all-pro team. Go look at Trent McDuffie for Kansas City. What is he in his second or third year? He's a star out there. Hell, Deron Bland made it as a second-year corner. You go look at the cornerbacks, and those guys are able to achieve at a really high level at the cornerback position early on in their careers. And I'll dive into it a little bit deeper later on the show. But the reason is because they're relying more on their athletic profile to match up with the athletic freaks on the outside of wide receiver. The guys on the inside, if you'll notice, the all pros at linebacker and at safety, they're veterans. You'll notice those guys. It's your 8-year veterans. It's your Justin Simmons. Now there are outliers. Talanoa Hufanga, the safety from the 49ers, I think he was a third-year guy. Kyle Hamilton's a freak. He's a second-year guy. But if you go look at over time, Jesse Bates the third, Justin Simmons, those are your all-pro safeties. Minka Fitzpatrick, Derwin James, those are the guys that end up making your all-pro team at safety. You go to the linebacker. Linebacker is very similar. It's veterans, right? Because inside, like I said, at that central nervous system, unless you're playing on the edges and you're playing at cornerback and you're playing defensive end or edge rusher, you're being asked to mentally be at your best and mentally be elite. Now, physically, yes, of course, there's a lot being demanded of you physically, but in terms of every different, in terms of all the different problems you need to solve at linebacker and at safety, there is a lot more of a burden on you in terms of the mental process, and I think that it lends itself to being advantageous to veteran players who have seen the game, who have played a lot of reps, and players who have now the wisdom of that veteran experience to help them. And if I am a GM in the NFL, I probably look more to the draft for my premium positions because it's cheaper. Number one, can't pay for corners on the free agent market. That's just lunacy, right? So in terms of from a frugality perspective, yes, you want to get those premium positions, cornerback, edge rushers in the draft because they're cheaper, and you're just looking for high-end data points, right? You're looking for just freakish speed and freakish measurables because that's what you need out there. But in the inside and that central nervous system, I'd be looking for cheap free agents, veteran guys. And right now, safety is really cheap because the market's flooded with really good safeties who can help you diagnose plays. This is the safeties and the safeties and the quarterbacks are the ones who are playing the chess game, guys. The safeties and the inside linebackers, they're playing the chess game with the quarterback. They're the ones who are trying to utilize pre-snap shell disguise. They're the ones who are checking and audibling and moving things around like air traffic controllers once the quarterback is deciding that he's going to motion an offensive player or he is going to check out of a play. They're the ones who are mentally in that chess game. And I think it does lend itself to veteran players being better at it. And right now it's a perfect opportunity for a GM to see the trend and see that now the guys who are non-essentials, who are up that central nervous system, your safeties and your off-ball linebackers, that now you can get a lot of them, really good ones on the cheap and build a great defense off of the pattern now that we're starting to see with these non-essential positions and non-premium positions. Because that's how I would build a defense. If you go look at it, those young linebackers that they draft early on, very rarely do they actually make all pro teams and Pro Bowl teams. And very rarely do we see those guys reach their ceiling within the first 2 or 3 years. It takes them a little while. And especially in this new NFL, it takes those linebackers, those off-ball linebackers. You may be talking about one of the toughest positions to evaluate and one of the toughest positions to play overall. And I think for a safety, and I think there are outliers, exceptions to the rule, but at safety, I think similarly, your better safeties are the veteran players who have the advantage of wisdom and experience that helps them solve those problems, all those multiple problems you got to solve on one play. You don't have that, like I said, outside on the edges. You just got freakish talent. So that's how I would build. Premium positions, let's go get them in the draft. Those guys are outside on the edges, winning one-on-ones. But the guys inside, like I said, the guys are in the quantum realm pretty much that have to deal with multiple problems and solve multiple problems simultaneously while the play is going on. I want NFL veterans doing that. And right now, they're cheap. And the NFL don't seem to see it.
No, but it's good news for the Cowboys. I'll tell you that.
It's because they need linebackers.
They need safeties and linebackers and interior defensive line. They've got the rest kind of figured out already. And if those positions are going to be guys you're going to be able to go out and get veterans and try and build through that, you can get those linebackers and safeties and shore up that run defense through there and put one more guy, maybe draft one interior defensive lineman. And that defense with Mike Zimmer shores up a lot of problems for not a huge price tag, and it helps out.
You don't need safeties, though. Remember, you still have Donovan Wilson signed and you got Malik Hooker signed.
But you may want to bring in somebody. Zimmer may want to bring in somebody who has a different skill set than what Dan Quinn was using. And he may want to bring in a veteran, as you said, who has a mind to help out in that secondary when you do have guys like Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland, who are ball hawks. You may want a safety who has a pretty good mind to help those two guys out and say, please don't jive for a ball right here or else it's a touchdown.
Yeah, no, which it's just like, I just think, it's interesting that the NFL hasn't really noticed a trend that you need veterans in the central nervous system of your defense. You can have rookies and first and second year guys out on the edges because they're just doing freakish athletic stuff, right? You saw Tariq Woolen essentially become an all-pro with his rookie year, and then I think he ended up getting benched his second year. right? Because out there, it's just, you just need
Yeah.
guys that can win one-on-one battles. If they're not winning one-on-one battles, then you bench them. Right? People were mad at Trevon Diggs because he would get beat every now and then, but he's a ball hawk. So he's just taking chances out there. He's going to win more than he loses, but he made All-Pro in his second year. Because out there, you just need a guy that can win one-on-ones. Inside, it's not so simple. All right, we come back. We'll get into some other big headlines of the day. We'll come back, hit some of the other big stories. We also have 512 Friday. So Patrick will let us know about some other very talented artists in the area during this South by Southwest weekend that you can have a chance to go see and enjoy. We'll also get back to the big fat poll of the day. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about Apple leasing. If you're in traffic right now in your car, maybe you're thinking about how old your car is. Maybe it's a little run down. Maybe it no longer fits your lifestyle. Maybe it's not big enough anymore. Whatever the reason is that you need a new car, Apple Leasing is the place that you need to visit, or they're the people you need to talk to. Apple Leasing has the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. The folks at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want. All it takes is one simple phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest, easy lease makes things, well, simple and easy because it's going to give you more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best, because inflation is out of control. Everything seems overpriced. That's why leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. That's the value my friends at Apple Leasing can find for you. They understand that your time is valuable. So they want to make sure that they are delicate with your time. They know that time is money. They're going to save you both. They're going to save you time and save you money. You let them know exactly what your specifications are, what color you want, what kind of car you want, whether it's a truck or a sedan or an SUV. You let them know exactly what your budget is, what you're willing to pay, what you can pay, and they will find the best value overall for you. They've been doing it for 4 decades here in Austin, because they make sure that customer satisfaction is their top priority. So you don't have to worry about the stress and the headaches of, going out, price shopping yourself, going to different dealerships, going down the rabbit hole to research the different cars and research how safe they are. The friends at Apple Leasing will do all that for you. And all you have to do is worry about enjoying that brand new car smell. Give them a call, 512-346-9977, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast, which means my man Patrick, the Idillionaire, playing jams from local bands and artists, very talented folks that you have a chance to see live right here in the ATX, especially this weekend. It's going to be a lot of live music in the ATX. My man Patrick hooking us up once again. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Souls Extolled. They're going to be playing Saturday at Rio Market, which is one of those weird Austin places that's a grocery store, like a small grocery store.
Wow.
That bands go and play. They play rock music in, right over there by the beer and the candy, and it's just a rock band set up. And
that is fantastic. That's so awesome.
And so,
grocery store that basically is going to play live music. That's amazing.
Yeah, so you can go in there and get a little shopping done and enjoy some music there with Souls Extolled Saturday at Rio Market.
I've never heard of that. That's a thing. I've never heard of that band. I've heard of bands playing in like obviously tight places, but a grocery store.
I'll send you like a clip of a video just to show you, Rod. Or I'll post it on Twitter. I'll tell you that. I'll post them on Twitter of kind of what that looks like, because it's basically it's just in an aisle, and like you see the videos in it they'll shoot. It's like the beer's behind them. The beer, it's behind him, and then there's just
dedication right there, man.
It's just
dedication.
It's just one of those weird, funny places. But you've seen, and there's been people that are like headbanging right there in front of the band. It's a
right
different kind of scene.
Store.
Yeah,
wow.
It's a different.
And usually grocery stores don't want you like loitering around, just hanging around. You want you just to buy your stuff and get out. But I guess there you can hang out and just kick it.
Yeah.
Do they have chairs, or everybody just standing up?
I think everybody's standing up and
wow.
But yeah, no, they're rock bands. You're not gonna be sitting down in a grocery store watching a rock band. That seems even weirder somehow.
Hey man, I'm old now. I'm looking for a seat everywhere I go. I'm like, hey, there are no seats around here. But no, there you go. My man Patrick letting you know exactly how to be in the know. You can seem really cool if you just listen to the show on 512 Fridays, because he gives you lowdown on all these very talented folks and where they're going to be playing. So we appreciate him. The big fat poll of the day: what Longhorn freshman coming in is going to have the biggest impact? Who do you think is going to have the biggest impact out of that freshman class coming in for Texas? That is an interesting conversation. We've gone a lot of different ways. We went the Colin Simmons route, went the Ryan Ringo route. Probably the most obvious. Aren't they bringing in like a new punter?
Yeah, I guess
bringing in like a punter.
Yeah,
if it's the punter, I got to make sure of this, because we don't pay a lot of attention to special teams, even though we should. I believe.
Look, we know we got Auburn. We know we're good there.
Yeah, you're good in the kicking game, but I want to say Texas may have been bringing in a punter as well, but I could be off about that. And he might be who knows? He might be a preferred walk on. But if that's the case, then that could be it. But I'm trying to think. The DBs are interesting. There is rotation, like you said, that defensive back. I think you have so many really good defensive backs. If you think of Gavin Holmes, don't forget about him. And he was in the rotation at corner. He's coming back too.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be really deep, they should be at defensive back. And remember, that's reports down to Jalen Gilbo is playing really good. Michael Kern's coming in as a punter.
Okay.
If we don't have a punter, that guy, if he's coming in and he's going to end up punting for him, he'll end up. It's a boring answer, but he'll probably end up having the biggest impact. But getting back to DBs, I like Kobe Black. I've heard great things about Phil Sami and the workouts, that he has looked amazing. But those are just workouts. They don't put on pads, and we're not doing football, actual football stuff yet in football practice. So for a young guy, I will say this for the young DBs, because I was a young DB once. You can look really good in the workouts, because that's just out there. Of course, these guys have more foot speed than the guys here today, because Texas is recruiting more foot speed purposely. That's intentionally. Like Sark wants to be a faster secondary, and he wants to be a longer, rangier secondary. So they'll just look like better looking athletes overall than the ones who are currently on campus. That's what you want, because Texas is finally starting to address the defensive backfield in terms of talent acquisition. But as a young DB, I can tell you right now, learning a new system and getting used to the speed and physicality of the game once you put the pads on, I don't know if, and now there are prodigies out there. Some guys are just prodigies, they're just freaks, but I don't know if the game will be moving too fast for them at that point. And that's what happens, right? The game is moving really fast because they're basically trying to learn on the fly. They don't have the muscle memory yet of the the system that they're in. They'll be asking a lot of questions. The alignment assignment, that'll be a challenge for them early on. And so just for them to get down to the technique and the fundamentals, which also will be new because they'll be teaching them new techniques and new fundamentals, that's a lot. Those guys are drinking through a fire hose. And sometimes I think for the young DBs, early on, they make a lot of mistakes. They get beat a lot. And I think you'll see that once the pads run, and then you'll see the younger guys start to separate because which one of these young DBs makes the same mistakes over and over again. All of them are going to screw up early on. Some of them are more coachable than others, and you'll see them make fewer mistakes. And then those guys will be the ones that the coaches start to trust, and they'll put them out in the field. Not all of the young DBs will advance along that rate, right? Their developmental rate, it will be the biggest determining factor for them.
And we should mention too, when we talk about rotations, Sark has said he's going to have to expand rotations on everything a little bit more this season due to the fact that there's hopefully going to be playing several extra games with the new 18 playoff that there is. He said now the season is getting in to 14, 15, 6. So if you're saying, well, we're going to play all these games, he understands you have to have more depth. You have to have more of that. And you have to have next guy up mentality to a certain point and have guys ready to go because you don't know what could happen going that many games into a season. So, even with you throw that in, he said before already at some of the press conferences at the end of the season that how important it's going to be for these young guys to come in and add to this rotation because you're going into uncharted territory of college football for how long the schedule could be if Texas gets where they want to be next season.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything. I mean, they'll actually be competing with the NFL.
Yeah.
That's how far, because usually the NFL wants to take over that Saturday when college football is done, and college football now is their schedule is going to be, a longer schedule. They're going to be playing more games because they expanded playoff, and the NFL, they're not budging. The NFL is like, no, man, we took over your Saturday. We thought y'all had already, decided your season was done. We take over Saturdays once y'all are done. College football saying, well, we own Saturday. It's college football is for Saturdays. NFL is for Sundays. So they're going to butt heads, and the NFL will be competing with the college football playoff actually come this upcoming season, actually. Because the 12-team playoff will expand. And by the way, the NFL wants to go to 18 games too. So it's just going to keep on expanding. And the NFL wants to take up the sports calendar. They always have like it's a monopoly board to buy up more and more property.
Yeah, that the NFL is going to go to college football and be like, just to remind you guys, us not playing on Saturdays is us being nice to you, not being scared of you, because look at the ratings. And we'll tell you, college football is great. And in Austin, we love college football. But if you look at the actual ratings and the money that's involved in it, the NFL is still king.
But that's what I think the college football, the leaders of college football, the suits, the decision makers, they want to test how popular this college football playoff is. Yeah. If it can compete with the NFL, because I believe last time I looked at it, the 100 most watched programs in America last year, I believe 90 of them were NFL games, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
it was a huge number. Yeah, I remember that.
It's ridiculous. It's like 88 or 90. The college football only had 3 such games.
Yeah, which
among the 100 most watched programs. And I'm talking about program, not just sports, but the NFL sports dominates it. But the 100 most watched programs were, of them, 3 of them were college football games. College basketball didn't even have one on there at all. It didn't even register. The NBA, I don't think registered either, actually. But college football, I predict, will have double that amount when they go to the college football playoff. They'll have 6 instead of 3, which is a big increase for them in the 100 most watched program.
I think it'll increase too when you start to whittle out some of the smaller teams that are going to be mad about it. But like we know Oregon versus Liberty would not draw the numbers that Oregon versus Alabama would draw. Right. And so it's just, we know that even though we could say, well, Liberty didn't lose a game and they were playing great football and whatever else, people just aren't going to tune into that because they're going to assume that it's going to be a blowout one way. So they may not tune in for the great game. But on the other game, they'll say, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen in this game. So there will be a point of, as you get further away from having the smaller teams really even be able to compete in the college football playoffs and have that D1 where the people think that it could go down to that Power 4 and kind of those teams are separated from everybody else and you have to be in that group to be able to play at the highest level, then you could really see them compete because all those teams now step up to the next level and it becomes more of a professional league.
Yeah, no, I think we've been seeing that for a while. Yeah, in 2022, it was 82 of the 100 most watched programs for NFL games. In 2023, it was 93 of 100 most watched NFL games. And yeah, college football had 3 games of the top 100 most watched programs. The State of the Union made it, which we just had one of those, and the Oscars made it too. I think on one of these, the Academy Awards made it.
Well, if you say 93 were in the NFL and 3 were for college football, then college football did pretty well because they got 3 of the 7 that were left.
No, you're right. No other sport, guys. No other sport even registers like in terms of the top 100. That's it. It's the NFL and college, but the NFL is way ahead of everybody else. Then there's college, and then hey, I throw some politics. Oh, sorry, the Thanksgiving Day Parade made it. So there you go. State of the Union, Thanksgiving Day Parade, and the Oscars. Those are the only other events, pop culture events that made the top 100. The NFL is a beast. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats, give you some cool facts and stats from the day right here on the Rodcast, featuring my man Patrick Davis. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. We're coming right back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into what the facts, what the stats. Get into some of the big stats, just some random stats from around the sports landscape. One of the ones I saw that was Spurs related, since Wemby was out. The Spurs actually they missed him in a lot of ways, of course. But with no Wemby, the Kings scored a new opponent season high, 76 points in the paint against the Spurs last night. Patrick, I'm sure you
that
got a chance
happens.
to watch that. The Kings
I
made
did not. I
six-
did not get to watch a lot of that game because it was a 9:00 start, and
good.
doing the morning
Good for you.
show, I could not. That was it.
Yeah, it's
That
not
was
good.
a decision to be made of like, let's not get all worked up watching this game. And it came down to literally a steal with the Spurs had the ball with 8 seconds. Sabonis steals a ball in the front and just makes a great steal and comes down and scores. So I would have been up till like midnight and then mad.
Watching the last play.
Yeah, and then just more tired this morning. I said, you know what? We'll watch highlights tomorrow. We don't need to watch this Spurs game.
I'm with you on that. See, I love your dedication to the show. So that's why you're the real MVP. The Kings made 69% of their points in the paint, or their shots in the paint, which was one of the higher numbers for a Spurs opponent. So they miss Wemby, and Wemby should win Defensive Player of the Year. But I understand the wins matter, not so much the stats. Nikola Jokic, he's got the stats and the wins. He recorded his 20th triple-double of the season, which makes him the 4th player in NBA history to do so in multiple seasons after recording 29 last season. Big O, Oscar Robertson, Russell Westbrook, Wilt Chamberlain, and Nikola Jokic. Pretty rarefied air. That's a pretty lofty company to be in with Nikola Jokic. Yeah, the triple-double just ain't as sexy as it used to be. I blame Russell Westbrook for that. Once we saw him, historically average a triple-double, we hadn't seen it in was it 40, 50 years, whatever, since Big O did it. After that, because I want to say he averaged a triple-double after that too, and nobody cared.
No, because he
after
made
the
it
MVP season.
He just kept, because they still weren't winning. And and if you said, well, now if this does not equate to wins and the best play, and you're just not passing the ball much, and like Westbrook falls in that stat, and Luka's not quite the same, but it still is that thing. The whole point of why his assists are so high is because when he passes the ball, you shoot, which is Michael Jordan was that way too. It was like, I'm not passing very often, and when I do, you better hit the shot.
You better shoot, man.
But there's not a lot of ball movement necessarily after they make the pass. So, Russell Westbrook was a guy where his was notoriously the number of passes he threw under 4 seconds on the shot clock, where he would hold the ball for so long. And so the person he passed to did not even have an option. Even if it was a bad shot, they had to shoot because there was 2 to 3 seconds left on the shot clock when they got the ball. And so that was part of it too, where you're like, once you saw that stat, you were like, well, that's really padding your assists when you are just always passing the ball to someone and go, shoot now.
That was the offense, though.
That was the offense.
Westbrook for a while. That was the offense. All right, there you go. There are some stats for what the facts and what the stats. We'll come back and we'll get into some of the other big stories. We'll talk some Texas baseball, Texas hoops, also big game coming up. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. We'll hear from an NFL draft scout talking about Christian Jones, courtesy of my man Corey Mose. We'll also talk about the latest post-combine top 50 big board rankings from Daniel Jeremiah. Also get to Charles Davis' latest mock draft, see where the Longhorns are slotted there. So we'll talk some Texas football and NFL draft discussion. All of that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast with my co-host Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And 512 Friday means the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, my co-host, very talented co-host. He has come up with another great idea to help celebrate the live and local here in Austin. Is when we play the jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings who you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. My man Patrick gives you all the details on that. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Shiny Ribs, and he's actually playing part of a big show that's happening Tuesday at Sam's Town Point. Our friends over at Coke FM are going to be promoting that as well, so you can find information at cokefm.com about that. But Shiny Ribs will be part of the dance at Sam's Town Point on Tuesday, one of those fun South by shows happening around town, where that one's south. That one's over closer to our neck of the woods, Rod.
That's beautiful. I like that. Yeah, like you said, if you don't want to go down into the heart of South by Southwest, you don't have to. There'll be shows all around the city and even on the outskirts, on the periphery, so you don't have to go deep into it. I actually am going down into the belly of the beast today and tomorrow. Actually, today I'll be speaking at Lambert's. There's going to be essentially a panel discussion about NIL and about the new changing landscape of college sports. So I'll be doing that. And on Saturday, the Third and Longhorns podcast that I do with my man Nick Shuley, shout out, but also with Fozzie Whitaker, Derek Johnson, Jeremy Hills joins that group, Alex Okafor. It is a really fantastic group of lifetime Longhorns, and all we do is talk Texas football. Always have some special guests on, current players and former players. So we're going to be at Antone's during a panel discussion, essentially a live broadcast of our Third and Longhorns podcast at 11 a.m. at Antone's, and Quandre Diggs actually is going to be our special guest. And that was booked. Shout out to my man Fozzie. That was booked before Quandre was released. So he's going to show up still, but now I imagine the tone will be a lot different. And hell, we may have some breaking news on there. I'm going to ask him about the Texans. You know I am. I'm going to ask him about the Texans, and I'm going to ask him about, his time at Texas, because I knew Quandre makes me feel old. Just full disclosure, he makes me feel old because I was on the 40 Acres playing when Quandre used to come into the locker room, because he's the little brother of Quentin Jammer, my former teammate who I played with at Texas. And I remember him when he was like a youngster, like really young. He just like he'd be playing around the locker room, running around the locker room and running around the weight room as a little kid. So now it always makes me feel old and and outdated to see my man Quandre doing really well. But now he's a grown man and an NFL veteran. But now he is among those deep free agent class of safeties that are going to be looking for a new home. And the Texans could use a guy like Quandre, but everybody could use a guy like Quandre. So there you go. I'll be out in the belly of the beast for South by Southwest. Check out that Third and Longhorns live podcast at Antone's at 11 a.m. That's going to be real fun. Okay, 512-447-3776. That is the number to the text line. The big fat poll of the day has also been a hot topic of conversation. It is Longhorn football related. Hook the folks up, Patrick, if they have not heard yet about the big fat poll of the day.
Which freshman will have the biggest impact for the Longhorns next season? We know Colin Simmons is the one that everyone's going to look at probably as the top answer, but we can look in the secondary with Kobe Black and Xavier Filsaime. We can look at Ryan Wingo, what he could do. You mentioned earlier him in the red zone. You talk about big plays. If Ryan Wingo has 2 or 3 catches in the red zone for touchdowns, does that make him a very big impact depending on where those are? Jarrett Gibson at the running back, Brandon Baker on the O-line, all possibilities. You could pull somebody else out. We mentioned the punter. There could be other options out there. And I do want to bring out, CB did point out to us on the text line, something I did not realize. Today is Sark's birthday.
Oh, today is Sark's B-Day.
Sark is the big 5-0 today.
Wow. Oh, man. He's going to have I wonder what he's doing for his B-Day. Maybe
I don't know.
Should have been
probably working.
Probably working. He should take a day off for his B-Day. He deserves it. And yeah, it's interesting because some of the details about his buyout clause have been released too from his new contract. So he can probably celebrate that new B-Day with that brand new contract. Yeah, so maybe we should throw that out there on the text line. What would you get Sark for his B-Day?
Yeah.
What would you get Sark for his B-Day? I mean, honestly, a national title would help everybody out. He wants one really bad. We all want one really bad. So that that answer, that's the easy answer.
But if
so
we could
try
give
to
that
find
out
out
for
something more clever.
if we could give that out for birthdays, I feel like we'd have a lot of them.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I know somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, national title." It's like, all right, that's
Yeah.
the easy answer. Let's try to find Sark something a little bit, a little bit more realistic that you could get Sark. You ain't got to be realistic. It's not a national title because, as you pointed out, them ain't easy to get. All right, if they were, a lot more of them be out there. But so happy birthday to my man Sark. I did not know that. Shout out to my man CB at Chris GB0002000 in the Twitterverse. He is worth a follow because you'll find out little nuggets like that. I found that it was Huff Daddy's birthday a couple of days ago from my man CB. CB always gives those B-Day shout outs, man. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll talk some Texas football since we're already talking Texas football. It's a big fat poll today. Which freshman do you think is going to step up and have the most impact out of that new recruiting class for Texas? A lot of early enrollees too, by the way. I believe more than half the damn class are early enrollees anyway.
Yeah.
So guys, it's interesting. Man, these young kids, they don't care about that, that prom, and they don't care about the spring semester and those spring sports, man. These guys are focused on football. They're focused on football. Early enrolling was not a thing when I was in school and I was coming out. I don't even remember them people talking about it. The thing about early enrollees, what is most impressive about it is these guys have to be academically way ahead of schedule. They got to be on track to graduate way ahead of schedule. I was not thinking about that kind of academic track when I was a freshman or a sophomore, which is when you got to start thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
You can't start thinking about it your senior year and go, you know what? I think I want to be an early enrollee. And they're like, well, it's too late. You got too many credits that you got to fulfill before you can do that. These guys have to be thinking about this as a freshman or a sophomore. It's phenomenal. I mean, it really is. These guys are sharp, man. They're way ahead of where I was.
And I think there is something to be said that NIL probably has something to do with that.
Oh, no doubt.
Now that they
You're
go,
motivated.
wait, so I can't make money until I get on campus, right? So when I get on campus, they can start paying me? All right, well, I'm going to be on campus as soon as I can.
No doubt. That's definitely playing a role in terms of incentivizing some of these guys. But I will say the movement did start before NIL. But you're right now is like I said, the whole class right now, I believe they're trying to enroll early. So that's to your point. They want to get that cash. And you know what? I ain't mad at them. There are some states where you can get NIL, you can sign NIL deals in high school.
Yes, Ohio, right?
That did that. Yeah,
that was the Quinn Ewers thing of why he left Texas to go to Ohio is because he could get it earlier there in Ohio, right? Am I thinking that right? I think that was right.
No, I think you're right about that. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Guys leaving school early to go make sure they can get the bag, and I'm not mad at them at all. All right. We'll have your Horn headlines coming up here momentarily, and then we'll get into a NFL.com story about they said the 5 teams that need to be the most aggressive in free agency. And one of the Texas teams was listed. We'll get into that. Both Texas teams actually can benefit tremendously from this free agent market of running backs and the free agent market of linebackers, which both these teams need. We'll talk about that for both the Cowboys and the Texans. Before we do that, let's dive into the Horn headlines. Have our man Patrick entertain, but also inform us about the big headlines of the day. Horn headlines for us, Patrick, please.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The Chicago Bears and Jalen Johnson agreed to a new 4-year, $76 million contract yesterday. According to sources, the deal includes $54 million in guaranteed money with $28 million in the first year of the deal. Johnson, who was franchise tagged on Tuesday, produced a career-high 4 interceptions, 10 passes defended, 1 forced fumble last season while being selected to the second-team All-Pro. The Mavericks over in the NBA got a much-needed win last night over the Heat, 114-108. Mavs, who had dropped 3 in a row before this win, were led by yet another 30-point triple-double from Luka Doncic, his 5th in a row. Luka will try and notch his league record 6 in a row as the Mavs take on the Pistons on Saturday. The Spurs lost a close one last night against the Kings when Sabonis got a steal and dunk with 8 seconds left to take the lead, and the Spurs were unable to hit a game-winning 3 or put back. Devin Vassell led the Spurs with 30 points and 9 assists in a game that Victor Wembanyama missed due to a sprained ankle. Wembanyama is being evaluated and could rejoin the team as soon as Saturday against the Warriors. And both Texas men's and women's basketball teams will be in action on Saturday as the women lead the Big 12, led by the Big 12 Freshman of the Year and co-Big 12 Player of the Year, Madison Booker, take on the winner of tonight's Kansas and BYU game in the Big 12 tournament. And the men's team will celebrate senior night at the Moody Center facing Oklahoma. Dylan Nassau, who sprained his knee Monday against Baylor, is listed as questionable for the game. And finally, Texas baseball begins Big 12 play this evening in Lubbock, looking to get back on the winning track against number 17 Texas Tech. LeBaron Johnson will take the mound on Friday. However, Cody Howard will move into the Saturday slot, with Charlie Hurley moving to Sunday after he had to throw 27 pitches in an inning out of the bullpen on Tuesday against the Aggies. And that is your Horn headlines.
Hey, can you have the All right, let's get into some NFL discussion, because the Cowboys and the Texans both need running backs. It's an interesting conversation. Both, obviously, Tony Pollard, he's a free agent. The report from Calvin Watkins earlier this week said that Tony Pollard would be willing to come back to the Cowboys with a hometown discount, even if a team offered him more money, that he'd be willing to go to the Cowboys for the right offer, which is really good news for the Cowboys. I think they should take him up on that. I do think the Cowboys should bring back Tony Pollard at what cost and what's the value that he is going to demand on the free agent market. I'm not sure about that, but they should. If he's going to give him a hometown discount, bring him back. He knows the system. He was good last year, but the Cowboys, I want to say, they misused him. They did. They misused him because he needs basically a complimentary back for him. He doesn't need to be the workhorse back. He doesn't need to be the main course back, if you will. That's not really conducive to him being able to reach his ceiling as a player, and to have the best version of Tony Pollard. The best version of Tony Pollard is one who is a complementary piece to your running game, and he works better either in tandem or with a combo of he and another running back, like they did when they had him with Zeke, or in a committee of sorts.
Yeah.
Whatever, however you want to do that. I remember his running back coach, Skip Pete, who was the Cowboys running back coach and now has moved on. When he was asked about Tony Pollard, I went back and grabbed this cut from a couple of years ago. He said, some guys are race cars. Some guys are high quality, expensive sedans. Those sedans can go forever and for a long distance at a very high rate, where cars go very fast and quick, and then they run out of gas. I've always just felt that at that position, you got to have two guys that are quality backs that can help each other, bounce off each other, and it helps if their running styles are a little bit different. So, like I said, complementary. He also went on to talk about there was a specific instance where Tony Pollard had a 54-yard run against the Bears a couple of years ago, and it was a touchdown. It was a big explosive play. He said about that run at the time, he said the juice isn't the same, and he's not as quick and not as fast. When he had that long run on the third and one, as soon as he got to the sideline, he told me, "Coach, I'm done. I'm done for the game. Done. I got no more in me." So essentially, he's saying no, that he's more of a race car. All right. Yeah. And in race car situations, all right, he can be explosive and he can be lethal. And he could be among the most explosive players on the field. But if you're trying to get that race car, all right, to do things that you want a truck to do or a sedan to do, that kind of that workhorse burden that you put on a running back, then you're going to have a less effective, less explosive Tony Pollard. And what do the Cowboys what they have last year? And he got to 1,000 yards, but he was less explosive and he was less efficient as a runner. And I think to get him back to him being an efficient, effective runner, you want to make sure you bring in somebody that complements him. The Cowboys finished 14th in rushing yards last season with 1,920. That was 18th in yards per carry at a little over 4 yards per carry. And even though Tony Pollard got over 1,000 yards, 1,005, he had a career low in yards per carry. But he set career highs in snaps, receptions, and also broken tackles. So he still got the ability to break tackles. But when he used to break the tackles, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
Gone, baby, gone. Now when he breaks the tackles, you don't have that explosive element. And I think to get back to that, you need the right complementary back. But this is the perfect market to bring Tony Pollard back on the cheap, and then find a great complementary back for his running style.
Yeah, and I'll also add in, he even said himself that he wasn't really himself and felt like the player he needed to be until week 12, 13, 14, like in that range is when he felt like he was fully recovered from that injury and that broken leg last season. So he felt like the last few weeks were really indicative of what he could do, and he did look like a better runner just on film in those last 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. So there is something to be said too of he really wants to go back, and I think he wants another prove it deal because he feels like last year wasn't what his best was. And so if you can put him in that stable, like you said, have another back in there, use him as a feature back, then he feels he can go back and prove himself once again. But he said he basically didn't feel completely right, planting and his burst and everything else until later in the season, recovering from that injury. So another off season where he'll be healthy to come through and get better, I think could be a huge coup for the Cowboys to keep him on a discount and get a guy who could be one of the best change of pace running backs in the league.
No, I agree with that. But I think to make sure, that he does get that opportunity, because you're right about the injury. And by the way, that's on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right. He was coming off an injury, and you still didn't bring in other running backs via free agency or draft. You drafted Deuce Vaughn, but I'm talking about drafting a running back that you saw as one capable of being able to, penetrate that committee of running backs or give him a complimentary piece at running back. And that was a miscalculation by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not expect that regression after such an injury like that? You should have anticipated that. They did not. And I think they suffered for it because the Cowboys really couldn't get their running game going, and they didn't really have a good short yardage running game, either goal line situations, things like that, because they also missed Zeke. And Zeke was their goal line short yardage back. So this running back market, Saquon Barkley, 27. Josh Jacobs is 26. Derrick Henry is 30. Tony Pollard's 26. Austin Eckler's 28. DeAndre Swift is 25. And the truth is, guys, that is considered old in the running back world. It shouldn't be. It seems absurd that is old, but in the running back world, these guys are already aging. Remember, running backs, if you look at the history of the analytics since 2001, they peak at 27. And their production drops by 15% when they're 28, 25% when they're 29, and about 40% by the time they turn 30. So that's why you rent a running back. You don't want to own a running back, right? You want to rent a running back, and that's just the perfect market for it. So they were discussing this on First Take, and they were discussing Saquon Barkley, who was the top running back in the free agent class, and whether Saquon Barkley fits better with the Cowboys or with the Texans. Here's one of the comments that I thought was interesting. Here is the First Take folks talking about Saquon Barkley.
Something that I haven't felt in a while. I'm seeing the organization that drafted me pay the quarterback a lot of money and still try to.
Oops. Sorry about that. We started about halfway through there. We'll start it from the top.
Okay, the most interesting, as we're just talking about on Get Up, is going to be the Cowboys. But the best fit for Saquon from a football standpoint is the Houston Texans. And I just came back from Indy at the Combine, and I was told down there is big interest on both sides there. And it makes sense because when you look at the Texans, the roster that they have under DeMeco Ryans, you've got playmakers, you've got CJ Stroud. Those two have already teamed up in the offseason, CJ and Saquon. You've got Tank Dell coming back off of injury. Dalton Schultz, they just brought back, re-signing him. So when you look at the Texans and what they were able to do, considering the fact that we thought CJ Stroud, hopefully he has a good season. The Texans, I don't know, do they have the pieces? They were hard out in the playoffs. That up until they faced Baltimore, they got rid of the Browns in the postseason. This is a up-and-coming team with an emerging talent. I mean, CJ Stroud, offensive player, rookie of the year. Mm-hmm. If I'm Saquon and I want to feel loved, something that I haven't felt in a while, I'm seeing the organization that drafted me pay the quarterback a lot of money and still try to, in his mind, might be trying to nickel and dime me. I want to go somewhere where I'm going to a contender and a roster that has talent where I can be the guy, but I don't have to be the only guy. And I think the Texans provide that for him.
Yeah. The important part of that cut, thank you, Patrick, was when she said at the Combine, talk about what they're hearing, agents at the Combine, coaches, front office execs, GMs, that there's mutual interest from Saquon Barkley's camp, which she's probably talking about his agents, and the Houston Texans. I'll ask you, Patrick, Saquon Barkley a better fit for the Texans or for the Cowboys? Because they both need running backs.
I mean, I think there's a couple parts. I think if you just talk about a guy, I wouldn't go get a division rival necessarily as my running back if I was the Cowboys. I know that.
Why not?
Because I don't know if that's going to work entirely. I don't think Saquon would necessarily want to go to Dallas. Let's put it that way. I don't know if Saquon would want to go there.
The mutual interest is what.
Yeah, I think the mutual interest. I don't think would be there the same. I think in Houston, if he comes in there, and we have to see how he, really enjoys Bobby Slowick's offense. But yeah, I think if you look at what they're doing in Houston and you saw what Devin Singletary was able to do, I think you can look at Saquon Barkley and think, wow, that guy could put up some really huge numbers. That guy could be really special in Houston. I mean, Dallas could get him as well, but I think Dallas, again, we talked about it. If you cap Tony Pollard, I don't think you need to add Saquon and Tony Pollard because I think there's other situations, there's other places where you're going to have to spend that money. I think you can go get someone cheaper that'll still have a really good season in this running back market. I think there's other guys that could, like, even if you look at an A.J. Dillon as an example of someone who could be probably pretty affordable for the Cowboys. That's it. That A.J. Dillon and Tony Pollard's not a bad backfield for pretty cheap for the Cowboys versus where the Texans have the money. They're going to, you got to go out and try and, get some guys now that you book them on you sign them to a contract like Saquon Barkley, you sign him on a contract that'll end around the time you're going to give an extension to CJ Stroud. So you'll be out of that contract and it'll be another one. It probably won't be a huge contract either, but you put him in, you maybe try and bring back Singletary as well. So you don't wear out Saquon Barkley by making him the every single down back and having him play all the time. You get a great back in Singletary too. But it just makes more sense in my head that he's on the Texans than the Cowboys, and the Cowboys go a different direction. But, if he wants to go to the Cowboys, if he really wants to stick it to the Giants, then, if I'm the Cowboys, I don't turn him down.
I mean, I'm not going to turn. I mean, he's the top running back right now in the free agent class.
Yeah.
Now, the price that he's going to demand, it could be, too much, too rich for some teams. You're right. The Texans have the 6th most salary cap space. The Cowboys, listen, Cowboys are one of the few teams that haven't even cut anybody. I want to say there are maybe 10 teams out there that haven't made a cut. But I think there's 10 teams that haven't made any roster cuts yet. The Cowboys and Baltimore are over the salary cap right now, so they'll have to make cuts eventually. But you haven't seen the Texans hadn't made many cuts yet, if any.
No, and I don't think they have to, because the Texans.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, some teams they're making cuts now, but I believe the Bengals, Texans, Colts, Titans, Raiders, and it's just some of this is just administrative. Like it's not like they're being like what Brandon Beane did in Buffalo. They're not just going through it with a hatchet and cutting roster salaries, but some teams are just making moves to try to make room on their roster, especially with the draft coming up. But the Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Colts, Titans, Raiders, Cowboys, Packers, Panthers, and Cardinals, I believe, have not yet made any moves.
No, and the Texans, though, if you remember, Nick Caserio built that team on mercenary deals. So you don't necessarily have to cut as many because you just have a ton of free agents. Because you sign guys to 1 and 2 year deals all the time. So they don't necessarily have those 5-6 year deals that they're now trying to get out of and have no guaranteed money on the back end so you can get out of it pretty cheaply. They don't necessarily have those deals. They have a ton of 1 or 2 year deals that if they don't want to re-sign the guy that was a mercenary, didn't work out, they're fine. They just move right along.
Yeah, the Cowboys are more what I'm talking about. The Cowboys they're up against the cap. The Cowboys are going to have to make some moves of some kind. And if they're not going to re-sign Dak to create more salary cap space, then you got to do that another way. And the other way is cutting costs and cutting salaries.
Yeah, and we know, so Michael Gallup's gone, right? We can say.
I would assume that he is, yeah. I mean, talk about basically guys who are underperforming their contracts. You look at those guys first. You look at the guys who are underperforming their contracts. And on the other side, you look at guys that are outperforming contracts because those guys need new contracts. Your CeeDee Lambs, your Michael Parsons, right? They're going to need to be paid. And you look at the guys who are underperforming, and I mean, it should be an easy decision for Michael Gallup.
No,
that should be an easy decision.
And I get, like, as much as we give flack for Jerry Jones for liking his guys, it is genuine. He does like his guys. I'm sure he hates this part of the year the most, where he does have to go in and tell these guys, I really did believe in you. I love it, but it's business. We have to let you go. And maybe, I'm sure he would love to go in and say, well, if you restructure your deal and do this and that and give up, millions and millions of dollars, we can keep you. But
pennies on the dollar.
But that's, I get that he hates this part. That's probably why it's being pushed off some. I also believe it's probably going to happen around Sunday night. And so it'll be the top stories on Monday morning. But I think that he does genuinely dislike this part of the season because he does like his players. He doesn't want to get rid of people. And you just sometimes have to. And right now, if they don't want to invest in push Dak's contract down the line and backload that contract and deal with it another day, if they're worried about doing that, then they're going to have to make some tough decisions this offseason.
There's no doubt about it. Some tough decisions coming for the Cowboys, and it starts with the quarterback position, whether they're going to extend Dak or let Dak play on the last year of his deal in a contract year. All right, well, we'll come back to some of the other conversations because there are a lot of good ones as it relates to the Cowboys, Texans, and free agency and what they're going to do. But we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. We'll hear from Field Yates. Shout out to my man Corey Mose over at KV, doing a good job of covering the prospects coming out at the NFL draft for the Longhorns. And he's talking about Christian Jones a little bit, and Christian Jones's draft stock, which is fast becoming a really hot stock. He's increased his draft stock tremendously. We'll hear from Phil Jason. He'll talk about how much he's increased his draft stock. Also, Daniel Jeremiah has his latest top 50 big board, post-combine big board. We'll see where the Longhorns are ranked there. And there's a mock draft from Charles Davis from NFL.com that I want to get into as well. So we got a lot of stuff to get into coming up in the Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain. We'll talk some Texas football, all of that and more with my man Patrick Davis, the co-host of the Rodcast. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right here on the Horn. All right, a couple of topics I want to get to here in the Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain segment. First of all, Daniel Jeremiah, he does a great job with his top 50 overall prospect rankings. This is the 3.0 version, the post-combine version for Daniel Jeremiah, who works for NFL.com. And he's got 3 Longhorns in his top 50. He's got Byron Murphy at number 19 overall. I mean, this is not a mock, so this is where they're ranked overall. Byron Murphy ranked 19th overall, and most of the guys ranked ahead of him are offensive guys. I mean, he's got, multiple. I think he's got 4 quarterbacks, maybe ranked ahead of Byron Murphy. The first defensive player off the board for him is Terrion, or at least on his big board, I should say, is Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama. He's the first defensive player off the board. Then they got Dallas Turner, the edge. He's got him 11th in terms of his big board rankings. Quinion Mitchell, the Toledo cornerback, who had a really impressive combine. Jared Verse, he's got ahead of Byron Murphy as well, in his big board. And I believe those are all the defensive players. Oh, sorry, Latu, the defensive end, the edge rusher from UCLA, is also ranked. So he's got like 5 defensive players ahead of Byron Murphy on his overall big board. Even though Byron Murphy, in a lot of drafts, I've seen him as high as 13. A lot of these mock drafts. As a matter of fact, the mock draft which we'll get to from Charles Davis has him at 16, I believe, going to the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got 19 on his big board. He's got A.D. Mitchell at 25 on his big board, 25th overall ranked prospect. He's got Xavier Worthy 41st on his big board, ranked out of his top 50. And J.T. Sanders, who was ranked in his top 50, is no longer ranked in Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. He was 46, I think, on the last pre-combine top 50 ranking. So still 3 Longhorns ranked in the top 50. Most of these mock drafts, and we'll get to the Charles Davis mock draft. Most of these mock drafts, though, have Texas with 3 players in the first round. And that is something Texas has not done since 1980. We talked to our man CJ Vogel about that earlier this week. He had a great column over at ontexasfootball.com. Go check it out for yourself. That had Texas with 3 guys in the first round. Charles Davis, similarly, his latest mock draft over at NFL.com. As I pointed out, Byron Murphy's got going 16 to the Seattle Seahawks, which Mike McDonald, he's cleaning house there. They cut Quandre Diggs, cut Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of cleaning house there in Seattle. So he's a defensive-minded guy. And if Byron Murphy is his first pick for a great young defensive mind like Mike McDonald, says a lot about Byron Murphy. He's got A.D. Mitchell going to the Buffalo Bills at number 28 overall. Also would be a great place for him to end up with Josh Allen, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. And he's got, which seems to be the most popular mock pick of all the mock drafts I've seen so far, Xavier Worthy, post-combine, Xavier Worthy to the Kansas City Chiefs. All the post-combine mocks, including Charles Davis that I just read, Lance Zierlein, Jordan Reed, and Dane Brugler, they all have X-Men going to the Kansas City Chiefs. And don't forget, Mel Kiper's last mock draft, which was a pre-combine mock draft, also had X-Men going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if they all could be right, Patrick, but if they are, God bless Xavier Worthy. There's not a better place he could end up. And if he ends up with Andy Reid and with Patrick Mahomes, I think he'll end up being one of the better wide receivers with his frame and his speed to ever come out in the league. And that's a bold statement to say, but I think he'll be among the best. But remember, keep in mind, there are not a lot of great receivers in the NFL that are as slight as he is in NFL history, 166 pounds. There's only, if you look at the top 50 lightest wide receivers at the combine in terms of body mass index, only one of them is a 1,000-yard receiver. That's Deshaun Jackson. You look at the fastest wide receivers at the combine in NFL history, only one of them, all right, Santana Moss, is a 1,000-yard receiver. I think he could be a 1,000-yard receiver if he goes to Kansas City. And like I said, there's not a lot of history of recent success with both of those models fitting, with him fitting the speed model, him fitting also the frame and the body mass index model there too.
Yeah, I will say, I believe you do have to be the number 1 receiver at Kansas City to get the 1,000 yards. I know there was some weird stat that they basically hadn't had a 1,000-yard receiver as the second wide receiver, or it may even be under 1,000 yards, but their second wide receiver in Kansas City under Patrick Mahomes does not necessarily get a ton. They spread the ball around a ton.
Yeah.
If he gets in there, Rashee Rice is not definitely set as the number 1 guy either. So you have that competition. And if Xavier Worthy can show out and do what he does, and if he continues to get better, they mold him into the guy they want him to be. He has the talent and ability to step into that role. And, if they found ways to get Tyreek Hill in open space, and we know he was a speedster, I mean, this is another speedster that's going to be there.
And
if he gets
Deshaun
drafted.
Jackson was if he gets drafted by it. And Deshaun Jackson was, a very light, fast wide receiver. Yeah. Andy Reid found ways to utilize him and weaponize him. So I think it'd be the perfect spot for him. And yeah, Rashee Rice I like Rashee Rice. But I do think in that offense, in the right situation, X-Man's got a chance to have a higher ceiling in that offense than Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice is great, but in that offense with Andy Reid, I think they would find a way to really weaponize and maximize a guy like Xavier Worthy's speed. Okay. Speaking of being able to maximize, hopefully Christian Jones, he's trying to maximize his talent to get drafted. And there are a lot of reports that Christian Jones has increased his draft stock. Now it's hard with old linemen because coming out of the combine, unless they are doing some freakish things on the bench, unless they're doing, some freakish things running the 40 at 300 something pounds, which Christian Jones looked pretty good at, you're not really going to hear a lot about their workouts improving their draft stock. It's going to be tough. So shout out to my man Corey Mose for doing the deep dive, the hard work to go find an NFL draft analyst, Phil Yates from ESPN, who gave him a nice synopsis of the draft stock of Christian Jones. And I got to tell you, I think it's rather optimistic. He's actually speaking that Christian Jones could be a guy drafted in the middle round after what he's done to increase his draft stock at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. Here is Phil Yates with my man Corey Mose of KBU.
I liked him on tape all season. I mean, that's a big, long, powerful offensive tackle who's got a ton of experience. I mean, 6 years at Texas, so he's played a lot of football. He, to me, though, during the pre-draft process, says just continue to go up and up and up. Had a good week down at the Senior Bowl. Strong, moved well at the Combine. I thought all the athletic testing that actually matters for offensive linemen was good for Christian Jones. At some point, you get to the spot where you find guys that you just know you can win with. And I feel like he fits that bill. It wasn't like a 7-time somehow. I don't even know if you could do 7 times. 7-time all Big 12 academic player as well. So the character is very good as well there for Christian, which does not hurt when you're doing the equation.
There you go. That's Phil Yates talking about how much he likes Christian Jones. And yes, there are reports that Christian Jones could end up being a mid-round pick. And I think the initial projections were that he was going to be a late-round pick, but whatever he's done in the draft process has really increased his draft stock. And yeah, Phil Yates said, he thinks Jones could be a late 3rd or 4th-round guy. That would be huge for Christian Jones. And they're projecting him to be a guard. A lot of the data points in his evaluation about his athleticism or lack thereof may get him in trouble if they play him at tackle in the NFL. I think he's probably got the size to play tackle, but does he have the overall athleticism to play tackle? We talked about earlier in the show how you are your most freakish athletes out there on the edges, on the perimeter, and he's not considered a elite high-level athlete, but a really good football player who's gotten better every year. He's coachable. You go look at his film from his redshirt freshman year to his film from his senior season, and it's night and day. And every year he got better. And the coaches are wondering, well, if we move him to guard, his athleticism will translate. So his athleticism will be an asset at guard instead of being a liability like it is at tackle. And if that is the case and he, continues to improve, does he have an even higher upside in the NFL at guard rather than tackle? And that is the belief. So I think they're projecting him to be a guard. They're working about it both at the Senior Bowl. So Christian Jones, good news for him. NFL scouts like what they see.
Yeah, it's very good news for Christian Jones to be able to continue to move up the boards, which you don't necessarily see with guys who have been, around for as long as Christian Jones. And,
that's true.
Normally they'll look at guys that are a little bit older and move them down, and they'll be trying to find reasons to move up a 21-year-old, 22-year-old over someone that's a little bit older. They'll say, well, this guy's only 20. Look at the potential he has. But I think with Christian Jones, they realize all the pieces are there. And, if we put him in the right system, in the right place, this is a guy who could be a pro for us for a decade. And, even though he's not as young, so we're not going to get the 15 years out of him. I mean, we could get 3 out of this 21-year-old, or we could get, 10 out of him. let's take the guy that we think we can get. Like minimum, we're going to get his rookie contract where he'll be a value to us throughout his entire rookie contract, and then we can work from there. But I just think people are starting to see the value of him a little bit later on as where his floor is a lot higher than a lot of other prospects.
No, it's a good point. And, I think they like the fact that early on in his football playing career, it's a guy that came in, checked in as a freshman at Cy Woods High School at a little under 6'3", around 215. He now plays at 318, measured in, I think, at 6'5". So he's gained damn near 3 inches and 100+ pounds in that time span. And that's about an 8-year difference. He was 6 years at the 40 acres. I don't know when he started to transition out of that body, but I'm sure as a sophomore, a junior, but he hadn't had this frame very long. And a guy like that, who hasn't had the frame very long, still could be maturing. Actually, considering he said what a drastic change his body has had. I think that's also the belief that he has more upside than initially evaluated, because this is a guy that may have now just start to get comfortable in that massive frame that he has.
Yeah.
All right, we come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the other side. Have some fun here on the show. I said Freak Flag Friday, so we're always throwing out some wild topics. We'll get back to the big fat poll of the day. It is Steve Sarkisian's birthday too. So what would you get Sark for his B-Day? We threw that out on the text line as well, 512-447-3776. For my man Patrick Davis, I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. This is the Rodcast, and we're coming right back here on the Horn.
Hey, Patrick Davis here, and I want to tell you about my new favorite thing to do all basketball season. I've been enjoying this. I enjoyed it during football season as well. It's daily fantasy football, and it's daily fantasy basketball. It's daily fantasy sports with Prize Picks. It's the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 3 million active users. And with tournament season about to kick up in college basketball, with the playoffs ramping up in pro basketball, there's no shortage of games that you're going to be watching, that are going to be on the TV, that you're going to pay attention to. And when you watch those games, if you want to find a way to make those games a little bit more exciting for yourself, why don't you go ahead and put together an entry on Prize Picks? You just download the app, then you pick two to 6 players. You pick more or less on a bunch of different stats projections, and it's that easy. When you get those, you can do a power play where you're going to put them all in, and you'll be able to take up your percentage, your multiplier on your wins, or you can go with the flex play, a little bit lower of that multiplier, but it means your chance of winning. You can pick 6 players. If 4 hit, you still win. That's not offered everywhere. There's also injury assurance. So if I had Wimby going last night, it didn't matter. He was scratched from the game. It doesn't matter. I don't lose any money on that as well. There's no sharks or competitive leagues too. Everything is set up to help you win more with Prize Picks. And, I keep going with Luka Doncic too. You can go. They have a category of points, rebounds, and assists combined. When you're talking about a guy who keeps having a 30-point triple-double, you're going to hit the more on that one more than you think you will. Right now, Prize Picks will offer your first deposit match up to $100 if you use the promo code HORN. So download the Prize Picks app and use the code HORN for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's just that easy.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off the record here, and I can't believe this story, but apparently it is true. I got it from TMZ. An Oklahoma high school fundraiser apparently has been heavily criticized because the Oklahoma high school had students licking their peers' toes, apparently to raise money for a charity. Oh, yeah. And of course, this generation videoed it and it went viral. That was how everybody knows. Excuse me. The new clips have started to make the rounds online that show students from a neighboring high school right down the street, Edmond North High, that show their own pupils using their mouths to slurp up peanut butter off of the feet of other students. They got videos going back as far as 2015 that showed this was like this is something they've been doing for a while. Right, this has become something that a tradition of sorts.
That's trauma, not a tradition. They're different things, man.
I agree. Some trauma bonding going on around there. But as it turns out, these videos show students licking armpits and licking toes and licking feet, and it is all done apparently to raise funds for the school or raise money for some type of charity or whatever. I guess that would be a good thing, but other than that, I don't know how this hasn't been shut down by the school or by the administration there. I don't know how this has gone on. I don't know how they got video of it.
Well, because if you say don't film it, it seems worse, doesn't it? I don't know. Yeah, and you shouldn't film it. But I'm also saying if the teacher's like, no, don't film it, then that seems like something's going wrong, right? You have to pretend like everything's okay if you're doing this. But it feels like somebody just walked into the room while someone was sucking peanut butter off a foot. And then they were like, no, it's for charity. No, it doesn't. There's no way that this is not.
It's disgusting.
This is
what it is.
There's no way this is not done by somebody who's in defeat. There's no way, right? Whoever came up with this idea.
I'm sure they are. But Deer Creek High previously denied the wrongdoing, saying in a statement that students volunteered to do this activity and insisting no faculty members were involved. To your point, I guess they wanted to make sure that they covered their own butts. For what it's worth, the licking stunt has proven to be an effective fundraising tool, as the school claims to have raised more than $150,000 for local charity when they did this. So
online videos, I'm sure they raised tons of money.
I guess the road to hell.
Wait, what did you say the name of the high school was?
Deer Creek High School.
Deer Creek High School. Okay, I thought it was going to be Quentin Tarantino High School.
or Rex Ryan High School. Remember Rex Ryan?
Rex Ryan too.
He's in the feet famously. He's got a fit fetish of some kind. Yeah, so I don't know how this is going on so long. They said they got video of them doing this back in 2015. So we're going on 9 years of this freaky fundraiser that they had there in Oklahoma. I don't get it. This is weird. This is very strange.
Yeah. That's not it's not okay.
And they said they're not the only school. Deer Creek is where it started, but they said now it has been documented to have happened at other schools in Oklahoma.
I don't because I get that there's
Edmond North High is another school that it's been documented.
There's innocent kids in this that have no idea, and they're like, "Isn't this gross?" And then there's people filming this for very nefarious reasons. And that's not good. That's not good at all.
Well, why would your kid volunteer to lick feet of strangers?
Because, I will say it's in Oklahoma.
If my kid, I want to know if my kid was involved in this, I need to know what part you were involved in. Did you take part in all of this disgusting activity? Did you film it? Were you the one getting your feet licked, or were you the one licking the feet?
Or is this like a chain where everyone's doing both?
It could be, which is, like I said, also disgusting. But I need to know what I need to know what you volunteered to do in this whole thing, in this shameful, duplicitous act. I need to know what you volunteered to do so that we can address it. Because you're right, there's a lot of wrong going on here. A lot of wrong.
I mean, that feels like something that you're going to be like 40 years old and smell peanut butter on somebody's breath and have a mental breakdown.
But they weren't forced to do it. I don't think that.
I know they're not
in the
forced
story
to.
about them being compelled to do it.
I know they're not.
They all volunteered and wanted to do it. They thought it was cool.
I get that, but that's because they're minors, and you're not supposed to trick minors into doing these things.
I don't know if they were tricked. I think it was their idea. Is what they're saying.
I don't know.
Like it was all their idea,
it's
and they wanted to do this.
It's one very convincing guy's idea. That's what I'm telling you. It's one. There's one guy who's very convincing. He's like, I think it'd be fun, Mary.
If the whole school
Mary, if you did this,
pressure,
yes,
the whole school came to. And then another school did it too.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's Oklahoma. I don't.
That's also true.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I'm with you. First of all, the adults do need to be held responsible because, come on, they knew something. If they weren't there, if any adult was there watching, then they need to be like suspended. Period. Like from the job.
Yeah.
But they definitely knew about it because it was too widespread. There's video of it, and it's taking place at the school. It's at the school.
Also, what charity is taking this dirty foot money?
Hey, you know what? Any charity will take that dirty foot money, man. You ain't asked where it's coming from. And the man on the street does not give a damn where that money comes from. He is homeless or she is homeless, and they just want a meal. They want to.
I know, but I don't.
Clothes.
I didn't know what charity this is because I bet it's something nefarious too. I think all of this is nefarious Oklahoma actions. I don't like any of it.
It's all shady. All shady
all
stuff
shady.
going on here. I'm with you. They did not list the charity. They just said they raised $150,000 for local charity when they did this. That's a lot of feet licking. What? Okay. What? I need to know how much they're donating per session of this.
And
now,
who is paying money to what? Because that's what you do in charity stuff like this. You go, hey, well, if you do this, if you pay us this much, then I'll lick feet. And that's really, really close to an OnlyFans. Like shockingly close.
It's disgusting.
It is. But I get that there's people out there. So I'm saying nefarious stuff. Oklahoma, come on, man. Do better. I know Oklahoma, we've said do better a lot, but Oklahoma, do better.
I love that the high school denied wrongdoing. It's like kids were licking other kids' feet and videoing it in your school. You are wrong. Like my mom used to always say, it is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. I'm gonna need you to figure it out and clean it up.
Now, do you think I just want to make this a little bit grosser for everybody? Do you do it with creamy or chunky?
You gotta go creamy, right?
Yeah, if you go chunky, what? I mean,
doesn't like chewing while you're down there?
Yeah,
you like chewing
I just
around
want to put
feet.
that in your mind. That's chunky in there.
That's disgusting. You know what? This is what I hate, Patrick, for actually putting that visual in my head. Because these are minors, by the way, so it's deplorable and disgusting all at the same time. I can't believe this is a real story. What the hell is going on, kids? God, where are we in society today? Where these kids are licking feet and they think this is cool? This is like supposed to be cool? What happened to just washing cars and selling candy and like mowing yards for like charity and fundraising? Licking feet? Dang, you're right. That's an OnlyFans generation.
It's an OnlyFans generation.
To even come up with stuff like that, you got some OnlyFans stuff, and I don't like that at all. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm sure that ruined some people's day listening to it. But we apologize.
Happy Friday, everybody.
You're right. It is a Freaky Friday. We'll come back. We'll get into the other hot topics of the day. We'll talk about the safety market in the NFL and why the Cowboys may have been ahead of the game. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming right back. Oh. Welcome back to the Rodcast. This is a Freak Flag Feel Good. Fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And 512 means my man Patrick, the Idealionaire. He wants to celebrate and showcase some of the very talented individuals and groups in the Austin area. So 512 Friday is all about playing some jams from local bands and artists. And my man Patrick giving you the lowdown and giving you the information about how you can catch these really talented folks live and in person. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Ian Moore. He is going to be out playing a cool show on Thursday out at Auditorium Shores, doing a big South by Southwest tribute to the Steamboats, legendary club that was here in Austin down on 6th Street. Bands like Bob Schneider, Vallejo, Patrice Pike, all going to be playing part of the event with Ian Moore. It's going to be a lot of fun, paying tribute to a club that launched a lot of bands in the 90s here in town.
I like that, my man Patrick, always giving us the goods on the great live music here in Austin. So we appreciate his efforts on a 512 Friday. So please get out there and support live and local. Will be a lot of that happening in the Austin area with South by Southwest coming to town. I'll actually be participating in the South by Southwest the events this weekend, actually, because I am speaking at a panel. It's going to be a panel discussion about NIL and about the new changing landscape of college sports. That'll be at Lambert's actually today. I think that happens at 2:00 from 2 to 4. So if you're around the area there or you're participating in the South by Southwest events, come on through. And on Saturday, myself, Nick Shuley, Derek Johnson, Alex Okafor, Jeremy Hills, Fozzie Whitaker, we're actually going to be participating in a live showing of our Third and Longhorns podcast. We're going to be interviewing Quandre Diggs. That was booked before hell broke loose in the NFL when it came to the safety market. But he's still going to join us, and we're going to do a live taping or just putting out a live show for the Third and Longhorns podcast. And that will be at Antone's at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So I'm going to take part in the madness a little bit, but I'm really excited about some of the events and getting to speak to some of the folks down there at South by Southwest about college football, about the changing landscape, and about Longhorn football. People are excited and certainly should be. Speaking of Longhorn football, we'll get back to a Longhorn football conversation, the big fat poll of the day on the text line, 512-447-3776. Wants to know who you think will be the breakout freshman from that young recruiting class, the latest recruiting class for the Longhorns. Let us know that on the text line. We'll get to that safety market here in a second. We got Raj Ram the day. I'll tell you how the Dallas Cowboys were ahead of this right now, this kind of mind-blowing trend of the safety position becoming a bit of a devalued position, a non-essential position in the NFL. At least this offseason cycle looks like that's what they've declared it. Now, this could just be an outlier, could just be a blip, or this could be the beginning of what we saw with the running back market being devalued to the point where the running back market is depressed now. Now, I think the safety market is in a recession, not a depression, but the old Reagan quote, right? It's when your neighbor loses their job, it's a recession. When you lose your job, that's the depression. Well, I think for a lot of folks out there, that may apply here, depending on how close it is to you at the safety market. You ask my man Quandre Diggs, he'll probably tell you that the safety market is depressed right now. I think it's a recession because I don't think it's going to last. I think the NFL this market will bounce back, unlike the running back market, but I could be wrong about that. I saw this stat, Patrick, that blew me away. You go look at the NFL defenders with the most interceptions since 2016. Justin Simmons with 30. Xavier and Howard with 29, Kevin Byard with 28, 26 for J.C. Jackson. All four of them are currently free agents. Those are two corners and two safeties, but all four of them are free agents. And if you look at the overall cash that has been shed, basically, and this is something to keep up with, salary shed. When you're cutting guys and releasing guys, how much salary are you actually shedding and making room on their salary cap? Right now, the safety position has the most salary shed of any position in the offseason so far, with $103 million of salary shed just at the safety position alone. Cornerback is next, actually, at $64 million. And this is interesting. And this kind of goes to one of my theories as to what's affecting the safety market. It's not the overall, I think, largest determining factor in the recession that's hit the safety market, but I do think it's part of it. we are in a golden era of defensive backs. We are.
Yeah.
The young DBs are better than they've ever been. And, you know, you go look at, hell, Sauce Gardner is probably the best example. Sauce Gardner made All-Pro as a rookie. He was the first All-Pro rookie on the first team All-Pro since Ronnie Lott did it in 1981. But you go look at even the All-Pro team from this past season. Kyle Hamilton, second-year player. Deron Bland was a second-year player. Sauce Gardner was a second-year player. Trent McDuffie, damn, he's so good for the Chiefs at the slot. He was a second-year player. You know, it seems like these young DBs, Antoine Whitfield, he was an All-Pro too, but he was, I think, in his fourth year or something like that when he made the All-Pro. But my point is the last 4 years, probably since 2020, there's a new class of defensive back. There's a new, in my opinion, kind of a new era of DBs where for a while, I think defense was in the dark ages. And I still think it is for the most part because offense has all the advantages, right? The rules are slanted toward offense. All of your cheat codes, whether you're talking about dual threat quarterbacks or the RPO game or targets to motion, motion before the snap, motion at the time of the snap, all these advances schematically, conceptually, philosophically, they have been advantageous to the offense, not necessarily to the defense. And if you look at it, and I've said this before, there aren't a lot of schematic upgrades you can have defensively, just not a ton. I mean, you can move things around. The 3 high safety is probably the most recent schematic upgrade or philosophical advantage that defense has had. And we saw that here at Texas with Iowa State in the Big 12. Hell, Sark saw half the teams he played this year ran the 3 high, 3 down defense. But that was probably the last advancement. Hell, in offense, every year it seems like there's a new cheat code they're using, right? There's some other advantage for the offense. And what I've always said, if you want to play better defense, you just got to have better players. You can, the scheme can uplift the level of play for the offense. We've seen that with schemes, right? We've seen it with, go look at, hell, the NFL and the quarterbacks, right? Mike McDaniel's scheme uplifted Tua. So Tua plays better. Go look at Shanahan's scheme. No matter what quarterback you put in there, that scheme will uplift that offensive player. He can play better. So we've seen different players, and even the college level. Look at the air raid, right? Air raid, you didn't need high level elite quarterback play. There's an insert quarterback your system, and then boom, the system uplifts the play of the player. That doesn't happen on defense very often. On defense, you just need dogs. All right. You need the Jimmies and Joes because the X's and O's are only going to take you so far on defense. You just need guys out there that can win. And I think that's happening more on defense. That's why NFL scoring has been down for the last couple of years. Passing numbers, passing yards per attempt, passing yards per game, all those numbers are down. And the NFL is trying to figure out, well, what's going on? I think one of the factors is you're in a golden era of defensive backs. It is just so many good DBs. We're just talking about Patrick Surtain, who also made All-Pro a couple of years ago in his second year. Whether you're talking about, we just talked about Sauce Gardner. He's been fantastic. J.C. Horn is great. Deron Bland was in his second year and led the NFL in pick sixes or broke the record. Remember Trevon Diggs was an All-Pro in his second year. Whether you're talking about Tariq Woolen, remember him out of UTSA early on? He was leading the NFL, one of the leaders in interceptions. Jalen Petrie for the Texans, a really good young DB. We just talked about Kyle Hamilton, a really good young defensive back. Tualona Hafunga, the safety for the 49ers. Remember, he made All-Pro in like his third year. This class of DBs, and I think what happened to them was they evolved in a spread era. Like they grew up in it. I was exposed to spread football when I got to the 40 acres, right? The air raid came along. You know, we played Oklahoma in 2000 and they won the national title running the air raid. Mike Leach came into the Big 12 in 99, then took the air raid to Texas Tech, and then it spread and proliferated all throughout the Big 12. So I was exposed to spread football. I didn't grow up in it. Some of these guys grew up in spread football. They literally, it's all they know. And I think growing up in that spread age, being ensconced and being overwhelmed at times and exploited by the offensive cheat codes and all the force multipliers on offense, RPOs, mobile quarterbacks, play action pass, up-tempo offenses, pace and space, the quick game, the air raid, hybrid spread schemes all over the place, package plays, zone read option. I mean, think about all these. If you're a defender, that's a lot to wrap your brain around. These are all schematic advantages that and philosophical advantages, conceptual advantages that the offense has had and gathered throughout the years. And if you essentially grow up in that to the point where you're disadvantaged all the time, like those DBs, and the rules, obviously, they're slanted against you too. This football laboratory created an experiment in football Darwinism, right? It's this Darwinism. This is survival of the fittest. And that evolutionary adaptation, I think, has led to DBs being more comfortable in this era where they are at a disadvantage constantly. These DBs are fearless. I used to fear things like this when I was a DB. All of these different concepts and the cheat codes going up against you, the zone read, the read option, mobile quarterbacks. But this is everyday life for them. That's all they know. And I think growing up, in this era of darkness for the defense and these, what was kind of the dark ages when offenses were getting all the advantages, now I think things are starting to shift. Right? And these DBs, as a result of being born in that darkness, like Bane from Batman, they are now well equipped to handle the new age of football, which is spread era, RPOs, mobile quarterbacks, up-tempo offenses, pace and space, zone read, package plays, all these things I'm naming that are all advantages that the NFL and the offenses have stacked throughout the years. These guys, they know exactly how to defend them. They're comfortable defending them, and they have no fear of these concepts. It's the same thing that Bane told Batman. Batman in the Dark Knight going up against Bane. Obviously Batman he is the one that ensconced himself in darkness, right? Darkness is his friend. That's his ally. Batman always operates in darkness, right? In the shadows. And that's how these offenses had, they had these young DBs. They had defenses operating in the dark ages. I think now you're starting to see these young DBs have a Bane-like mentality. And they're turning toward the offenses in the NFL and saying, we have no fear because we were born in darkness.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. Molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
And what did Bane do? He whipped the hell out of Batman, beat the hell out of Dark Knight right there, damn near killed him. All right. That's what's happening with these young DBs. They have no fear. All right. They grew up in 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is geared toward the offense. Their entire lives as young defenders, they have had to work from a severe disadvantage. And where it used to instill fear in DBs who were exposed to it like me, who had to adapt to it on the fly, these young DBs, they have no fear of that. They were trained and programmed with fear. So actually they, the next generation of young DBs, I think that's a big part of why you're seeing $160-something million of salary shed just in the secondaries so far early on in this offseason, is because there are a lot of really good young DBs out there. One just signed for a deal, Jalen Johnson, but they are really good ones and elite ones. And I think that has led to some of the older guys who are a little higher priced DBs being priced out of these contracts and being essentially released and kicked out of their organizations and haven't hit the free agent market. And it'll be a depressed one for the most part. It's because they got young DBs that can ball. Hell, you can find them in middle rounds now too. Ask the Dallas Cowboys. You can find them later in the second round, in the third round. You can find some of these really good young DBs, and I think that's a big part of the shift, maybe in the mindset of the value. The cornerback position is still really valuable, but the safety position not as valuable. And I think that's a mistake, by the way. I'm on the record for saying I don't agree with this because I disagree with because the Cowboys were always about this. This will kind of get into our rant of the day. The Cowboys were, I think, a team that always viewed the safety position as non-essential. And now, like the rest of the NFL, is starting to align with the Cowboys' way of thinking. Let's get into that in Rod's round of the day. So you have a lot of safeties now on the free agent market, and it is as robust as we've ever seen it with all these guys: Xavier McKinney, Kyle Duggar, Justin Simmons, and Eddie Jackson, Kevin Byard, Julian Blackman. I can go Michael Hyde, Jordan Poyer. You're talking about all pros now at safety being released. And one thing it reminded me of is that it reminded me of the Dallas Cowboys, because Dallas Cowboys and Cowboys fans know this very well. The Cowboys have never invested salary cap money or salary cap resources or draft capital resources in the safety position. They just don't believe you should spend money there. And this makes sense because you can't spend top dollar everywhere. All right. The NFL is a salary cap league, which means everybody's on a fixed budget. And when you're on a fixed budget, think of it like you going to the grocery store. You're not going to splurge on non-essential items. First thing you do when you go to the grocery store, which y'all should do. Some of y'all irresponsible, but you should get the essentials first, the necessities. Get the meat, get the eggs, get the bread. All right, get the essentials. Whatever, if it's milk for you, whatever the essentials are. All right, food for the kids, whatever. Get that first, and then you start to determine how much money you have left over to spend on non-essentials. Right, and then you decide what to skimp on. Our family, we skimp on paper towels because I use a lot of them. And I don't need expensive paper towels. I don't really nice paper towels. Why the hell would I need really nice paper towels? I don't need them. Now, toilet paper, we're going to get the good stuff. Oh, no. With the good stuff. You can tell when there's like an emergency, when everybody obviously is buying everything off the shelves at HEB. There's nothing left on the shelves at HEB because there's an emergency. It's going to be a freeze coming in town, or there's a water shortage, whatever it may be. People freak out for whatever reasons. And you can always tell the cheap toilet paper because it's still there on the shelf. Even after everybody bought everything else off the shelves at HEB, when the freeze is coming or whatever they're anticipating, what emergency situation, they leave the cheap toilet paper. Because there are certain things in life you don't skimp on, and toilet paper is one of them. You shouldn't skimp on a lawyer. You don't want a cheap lawyer. You don't. Nope. Get the one that costs you the most money, because that's probably the best lawyer. Seafood. I don't like cheap seafood. I don't want to go through a drive-through for seafood. I don't want to see. That's the reason you don't go get gas station seafood. Nope, you don't do that. Now you eat a pizza at a gas station. You eat wings from a gas station. Some of y'all may even eat a burger from a gas station. You better not eat some seafood. You got some shrimp at a gas station, pass. Okay. Don't eat the salmon from 7-Eleven. No, not a good thing. Okay. Don't skimp on condoms. Trust me. You don't want to skimp on the condom. Get the name brand, get the name brand condoms, and get the ones that are high priced, because you get the cheap ones. And trust me, the consequence of that could be dire for everybody involved. All right. So there's certain things in life you don't skimp on, and certain things in life you want to save. Right. You want to skip on those things. Like I said, for us, it's paper towels. It ain't gonna be toilet paper. And the NFL is the same way. There are certain positions they're gonna skimp on, and those will be the non-essential positions. Whatever the premium positions are: quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, defensive end, cornerback. Those are going to be your essentials where you're going to spend most of your money. And the Cowboys decided years ago they were not going to spend money on the safety position. Matter of fact, they really never have spent money on safety. Since 2013, 75% of the NFL's teams have picked at least one safety in the first or the second round. Cowboys have not. Since 2002, the Cowboys have only spent one pick in the top 125 on any draft and on safety, because they don't believe they should spend high draft capital on safety. They get their safeties from the free agent market. Look at Malik Hooker. Look at J-Run Curse. Hell, Donovan Wilson was somebody they drafted later on in the draft that worked out, and they signed him to a deal. And they like signing their safeties to 2-year deals, 2-year, 3-year deals with an opt-out after a year or so, because they don't want to invest. They want to rent safeties and not own them. That's how they want to rent a safety. Now the running back has that same, I think, stigma on it, where you want to rent a running back. You don't want to own a running back. And Cowboys were late on the running back market. They overpaid for Zeke and franchised Tony Pollard. So they're behind in the running back market. But I will say, if this is where the safety market is going, the Cowboys were ahead of the curve. They were ahead of everybody else when it came to looking at safety as a non-essential position. I don't agree with this, by the way. I think safety, I don't know if it should be essential in a premium position, but I don't know if it should be devalued to the point where the market is in a recession or a depression. Because when I look at the safety position, this is how I break down football, right? You guys know this. And I look at the central nervous system of the defense, the spine of the defense. And when I look at the spine of the defense, I want veteran players up the spine of my defense. I want guys who have veteran experience, who have high football IQ, who are versatile defenders. And I'll tell you why. Because on the outside, on the edges, at cornerback and on the edge, where you have your defensive ends and pass rushers, that's why they're premium positions, is because they got to win one-on-ones. They got to win one-on-ones against other freakish athletes, period. Right? Cornerbacks and wide receivers, win one-on-ones, freakish athletes. Defensive ends and offensive tackles, need y'all to win one-on-ones. Y'all are freaks. Y'all are X-Men going up against each other, right? It's like, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where that's why their data points and their evaluations are usually all about the measurables and how they athletically, what's their profile and what their upside is. But think about everybody else who's inside. Your off-ball linebackers, even your D tackles, your safeties. Their job isn't so cut and dry. It isn't so black and white. They just got to win one-on-ones. They gotta solve multiple, complicated, complex problems and constructs on every down. For a linebacker, it's the RPO game you got to worry about. Even when you're right, you're wrong, right? The run pass option. You also got dual threat quarterbacks to worry about, and the quarterback design run games. That's becoming more and more common in the NFL. You also got to worry about now running backs are used more in the passing game than they ever have been. So usually that's your responsibility. Got to be able to drop back in zone coverage. Got to be able to blitz too. All right, that's going to be part of it. And you got to be able to match up in man when they want to play man. Your skill sets to be so diverse and so multiple. You need a versatile defender with extremely high football IQ who can diagnose and decipher offenses and offensive game plans and personnel packages and formations quickly. And young players don't do that because the game's moving too fast for them. They're young. If you go look at the all-pro teams lately, you'll notice a trend that outside a cornerback, you're seeing more and more young corners, second-year, first-year corners, third-year cornerbacks make all-pro, best at their position. If you go look at the linebackers lately, there have been some outliers. There's your Roquan Smith. He's an outlier. There's Fred Warner. They're an outliers. But for the most part, you go look at the off-ball linebackers who are making all-pro, they're veteran guys. They're guys who've been playing, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in the league making those all-pro. Hell, I think Bobby Wagner's still making close to all-pros. And he was like in 8th year of his of his career, 8th or 9th year of his career. Because inside, all right, you're basically in a quantum realm. You're not just trying to win a one-on-one. You may have to do that, but you got to take on blockers. You got to be a force run defender. You got to drop back in zone. You got to diagnose the RPOs. They got the safeties moving around. When you're talking about the chess match within the game, when the quarterback's making adjustments and audibles at the line of scrimmage, he is in a chess match, usually with the off-ball linebackers and with the safeties, who are, using pre-snap shell disguise, rotating, from single high to two high and moving things around constantly. They're the air traffic controllers and the communication center of the defense. When the defense is audibling and checking, those are the guys that are doing it. So what I would say is that for those guys inside, who have to be agents of chaos pretty much, and not just a guy that can win a one-on-one on the outside, I would still draft the premium positions because they're cheaper and you want to make sure you got the most athletic upside with those guys. And you find that out when you can evaluate them through the combine and the pro days and watch all the film. And I get that. And that's where you want to go for your premium positions because they're the cheapest. But what I would start going for the central nervous system and the spine, when I'm acquiring off-ball linebackers and safeties and hell, maybe even D tackles too, depending on how the market goes, I would go with veteran players who have experience, who have high football IQ, have shown the versatility, and have shown the ability for their game to translate to the NFL. And the game is probably slowed down for them. Right. It's probably not moving as fast as it is for those young linebackers or those younger safeties. And if you'll notice, the safeties that are making all pro now, they're veteran safeties. They're your Justin Simmons, your Derwin James, your, you go look at Minka Fitzpatrick, they're older safeties that are making it. Kevin Byard. Because I think at that position where everything moves faster the closer you are to the football, you want a veteran player with high football IQ who have the experience of seeing all these NFL concepts and schemes at full speed reps. And I think that's tougher on young players. So I would, if I was building a defense now, if I was a GM in the NFL, I would love what's happening with all the linebackers and all the safeties flooding the free agent market and those positions being devalued, not considered premium, considered by some to be non-essential, because I would build my defense with veterans who are cheaper veterans, but they are high football IQ guys and versatile. I would acquire those for the central nervous system at off-ball linebacker and safety, and I would continue to pay my premium guys, the cornerbacks, your edge rushers, because obviously that's what the game has evolved to. I would still pay those guys, but I think you can get great value up the central nervous system of defenses now, considering what the NFL values and what they don't. Now, considering D tackle, the NFL does value D tackle. Half of the highest paid NFL players on defense last season were interior D linemen. So they are starting to figure out that they need to prioritize and they need to emphasize D tackles, because I think they want to play with lighter boxes, which means you need better D tackles who can demand double teams, or who are so mammoth and so gargantuan, like my man T'Vondre Sweat, that they essentially take up two gaps with their mass. They can take up multiple gaps, which he can. So I think D tackle's not quite in the same boat as off-ball linebacker and safety, but those positions I think are critical to playing high-level defense. I mean, go look at the linebackers for the final four teams in the NFL, right? The Baltimore Ravens had a great linebacking core. The Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, the Lions drafted a young Jack Campbell to be one of their linebackers. They all have really good linebacker play. It's understated, but it is critically important. And I think the NFL may be missing the boat on that and the safety position, just because they're not really able to predict and project where the value of those positions is going. So there you go. All right, long rant there, I know, but I had to get it off my chest. It's been on there for a while. All right, we come back. Let's talk some NBA on the other side. We'll talk some Texas Longhorns on the other side too. There is good news potentially for this Longhorn squad. Wally Zerbiak actually has a message to all the college basketball fans out there about how dangerous the Texas Longhorns could be. They don't have Dylan Dessou. They won't be a threat at all. So we'll talk about Dylan Dessou and whether he'll be ready for their upcoming game versus Oklahoma this weekend. Texas baseball in action tonight on the road in Lubbock. We'll get some Longhorn discussion there, talk about Longhorn sports. When we come back right here on the Horn, this is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis, my co-host. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Aside from the traffic, we all love this great city here in Austin because there's so many different things that it has to offer. Great things it has to offer, like the food, the live music, as we've talked about all day here on the show on a 512 Friday. The people are fantastic. Also, the city is so unique in so many ways, right? The iconic landmarks around town that make it so unique. And what you may not know is that many of those landmarks are actually created and built by the hands and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. And the folks at Ironworkers Local 482 right now are hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They're even offering training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. This prestigious organization has been around for a really, really long time, and they've been helping this community and helping create this community for a long time. And you can be a part of this experience. You can maximize your potential and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself by applying online at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to the Rodcast on a Freak Flag 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. My man Patrick Davis, co-host of the Rodcast, the Idealionaires, we like to call them, always coming up with great creative ways to keep the vibe going here on the Rodcast at 512 Fridays. Another one of his inventions, his creations. It is to show love to live and local, playing songs from local bands and artists who you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is White Mylar, and they are playing Saturday at the Coral Snake.
White Mylar.
White
So
Mylar.
Once again, do we know the origin of this?
I don't. I know the
just,
band personally. I do not know
Okay.
the origin of the name, but they're young, so who knows? Who knows what it can mean?
As I said.
And by the way,
always-
I posted on my Twitter, if you guys, or my X, if you guys want to go up there. When I talked earlier about Celtic Stoll playing the Rio Market on Saturday, I posted a video that I found of the Rio Market. If you want to find it, it's Patrick Davis is where you can find it in the Twitterverse, and it's an interesting place, right?
Oh no, it's great. No, this is my question. What if I need something? If I come in there for an item that is right by where the guy's playing, do I just interrupt the show? Because literally the guitarist is right there, like right by one of the aisles. Like I could need a product there. Do I just go get the product?
I think you got to
dance my way over.
I think you got to dance your way up there. He's got to kind of.
You got to dance. You got to dance your way. I mean, seriously, it is fantastic. Go check it out, folks. It's hilarious. It's Patrick. It's literally, think about your kind of neighborhood store there. Your neighborhood grocery store, not obviously like a big chain grocery store, but just kind of your neighborhood convenience store. And yeah, they just put a band right there next to the beer section or right next to the chip section, and boom, there it is, wherever they got the most space. And like I said, it's really cool though. I love the idea.
There's lights, there's stuff. It's just an interesting, it's a different place.
It's
but
awesome, baby.
But that's a cool thing to check out.
So awesome. That is so awesome. That is such a cool thing. All right, there you go, my man Patrick hooking us up. Speaking of hooking us up, Patrick's gonna hook us up with some audio here because I saw this audio. This was from CBS Sports College is where it's from, but it's Wally Zerbiak, who I believe is the one who makes this statement, but he's making a statement about Texas basketball. Now, Texas basketball, big game coming up versus Oklahoma this weekend, and we're not sure about the status of Dylan Dessou. We're not sure if he's going to play, how much he's going to play. My man Patrick thinks he's going to play just a little bit, but not too much. Just kind of maybe testing out that need to see how the pain tolerance will be on the sprain, if it can stay, how long it can stay loose without tightening up, that kind of thing. Well, here's Wally Zerbiak talking about Texas men's basketball, and he seems to believe that if everything falls into place for Texas, that they could end up making some noise in the tournament. Here he is.
No one wants to play Texas in the second round. I'll tell you, if you're a 1 seed and they come in as a 9 seed, that team is finding their game. They're healthy finally. Dylan Dessou, Max Asmus has experience in the NCAA tournament. That's going to be a fun league. They always represent in the NCAA tournament, but watch out for Texas the way they're playing.
Do you agree or disagree, Patrick, with Wally Zerbiak, especially now with the Dylan Dessou uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know if I fully agree that they're definitely hitting their stride right now. And
that's what I don't agree with. I'm like, what's stride?
I think that, if you look at the fact that they looked pretty good against Baylor until that Dylan Dessou injury, that you could have, if he was watching that game, he goes, okay, Max Asmus, the reality of, you need to get in the tournament, the higher seed you can get into, the better. But if the matchups matter. If they play against a physical defensive team, they're going to struggle because Max Asmus struggles against physical defensive teams. And if they play against somebody who wants to go and play offense against them, they can play decent defense against those teams, and then they can score, and Max Asmus can be that player. The hope is they get some decent matchups in the tournament, and Max Asmus shows off what this is his last run. He's made noise in the tournament before. That's the hope, is that he comes out. We know that his star is shine the brightest in big moments, and he had that game winner early on at Madison Square Garden. He's had some games where he's hit big shots down the stretch to win the game. He just hasn't been the same player since basically everyone in the Big 12 realized, well, just body him up and double team him and ball deny him and push him out on the perimeter and make him a non-factor, because he'll stop playing without the ball, and we can just push him further away and we'll be fine. And then we'll play the rest of the team and make Tyrese Hunter try and be a star, make Dylan Mitchell try and be a star. And when Dylan DeSue was not full health, that was really, really hard because Dylan DeSue just wasn't, you didn't have another option in the post. And then if Dylan DeSue matched up against a guy who's 7 foot, that's where he has a little bit more problems because those guys are able to just go straight up and down and cause more problems of him getting a decent shot off. So, there's are matchups where if you're playing against a team that wants to be physical and has a 7-footer, not a great matchup for Texas. So when he says they made it 1 seed, Purdue has no problem playing Texas right now. I think Purdue would be okay with playing Texas. Yeah. Now, there are other teams that could, try and outscore Texas, and it would be a different story. But the big issue now is Dylan DeSue, are they playing the injury off because they're saying that they don't want to, make it seem like they shouldn't make the tournament because Dylan DeSue's injury is worse? Or is it that their injury, they don't feel it's that bad at all, and he felt something on the floor, but they don't really feel it's too bad now, but they don't want to tell Oklahoma because they want Oklahoma to think they're not going to play Dylan DeSue and maybe have to game plan some other things. You don't want to necessarily tell them who's going to be playing. We don't know. We don't know what the extent of that injury actually is. We'll know on Saturday if he plays a lot, if he plays a little. And then remember that odds are right now because of the loss to Baylor on Saturday, Texas is either probably an 8 or 9. That would be the day 2 games in the Big 12 tournament. They would play each other once again a week later. So basically 1 week after, or 6 days after, I believe, actually on Saturday, they would play again. And then that matchup has to go on and play the number 1 seed, which would likely be Houston. So it's a tough second matchup but if you can beat Oklahoma twice and then go be competitive against Houston, then you can move up to a 7 seed even. But you're probably going to play Oklahoma twice within a week.
Always tough to play the same opponent multiple times like that in a year, obviously, but with a short time span like that can be difficult. And I believe it's Kirk Bowles who reported they're still evaluating basically DeSue's.
Yeah, they did the media availability with all the seniors yesterday, and so Rodney Terry didn't really talk much, but the general consensus was, well, we're going to see, and Dylan DeSue said, I feel okay, but the doctors are going to check us out and the staff. Because you have to listen to your doctors and your staff that if they tell you, I know you feel okay, but we can see, when we're doing the reflex test and when we're twisting your leg around, you're grimacing, then I don't want to put you out there on a sprained knee and then you're out for 3 weeks and our season's over. Like, that's the end of it. If he hurts himself for 2 weeks now, season's over. Yep, so you have to realize, hey, man, we need you back full strength next week.
Yeah, because you're basically, if he's out, then you're done because you got no shot. And if he isn't as close to 100% as possible, and he can't be the 3-level scorer and a guy that can help you on both ends of the floor, you don't stand really a chance of making a run the tournament either. So you need him back, and like you said, as healthy as possible. Hopefully that is the case for them. And Dylan DeSue, man, this is a guy that was in the conversation to be. I mean, he's going to be a first-team All-Conference defender. Was he in the conversation to be a Big 12 Player of the Year?
I mean, I think if Texas was better, but I think missing enough of the season, and he wasn't like when Big 12 play started was kind of when he was starting to get back into it. And there's just guys from Kansas or Baylor. I mean, really McCullers maybe in there. I mean, there isn't, but that's the thing. I don't know if any of those guys are ever going to be. I don't know if there's a walk away. This guy's the guy in Big 12 play this year. So Dylan DeSue might have been in the conversation, but I don't know if he was going to be the front runner, especially you're not the front runner on a 500 team.
On a bad team. Yeah. No, I agree with you on
that.
Not
bad, just 500.
No, but definitely would have been, I mean, I think he's been a first team all conference player and in the best basketball conference in the country, and the best player on the Texas team. So hopefully Dylan DeSue will be hopefully it's an optimistic diagnosis, whatever it is, and we'll find that out tomorrow. We'll also find out about Texas baseball tonight. They'll be on the road in Lubbock. We'll come back and preview a little bit of that matchup. Longhorn men's baseball on a 4-game losing streak. First time since 2019. They'll be trying to break that in Lubbock against a really good Texas Tech squad. We'll come back, preview that a little bit, and play some Who Said That on the other side. Getting ready to wrap this thing up and put it in the oven. This is the Rodcast right here on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast, a Freak Flag 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast, featuring my man Patrick Davis, my co-host on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. He's the idealionaire, comes up with all these really creative ideas, especially the musically themed days of the week. And 512 Friday is all about playing jams from local bands and artists who you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. My man Patrick gives you all the details on how you can do that. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Bright Light Social Hour, and they are playing Sunday at the Far Out Lounge.
I know what that is. I know where the Far Out Lounge is, so it makes me feel cool. Every time I know one of the venues, I feel a little bit cooler. Or I just feel older. I don't know. Maybe that place has been around a while. Who knows? But thank you to my man Patrick for 512 Friday. All right, time for Who Said That? We play audio, and then basically you out there are supposed to try to figure out who said that based on the audio that is played. I sent you a clip there, Patrick. And it's a pretty funny one. Now, you might be able to figure out on the context clues who it is. But let's play that clip, and then we can come back and discuss.
Give me
Who
1
said
second.
that?
Keep talking for 1 second while I try and find
right,
where I left this
and
thing now.
This clip, actually, the funny part about it is this guy who they're talking about, later it was a big story that came out that he was biracial or multiracial. And a lot of people didn't think he was. He's a head coach in the NFL. And it came out later that he was multiracial, and he was very proud of his multiracial past. And I'll just say this, the story, the anecdote that is being told here is about him going to a wedding, almost inviting himself to a wedding. And I'll just say this, if I'm going to a wedding, and let's say I'm the only brother at the wedding, I got to make sure I show up on the dance floor. Got to show up on the dance floor because there's gonna be a lot of pressure on me. All right, to make sure that I handle myself on the dance floor, that I represent on the dance floor. There was something like that going on here. We have this clip.
Yeah,
here is the Who Said That audio.
And Hawk, whose wedding was that? Was that your wedding?
That was my wedding.
And he's sitting there. He looks like he's like 18 years old. And you're like, yeah, that's my receivers coach. And I'm like, wait, what?
Juju. He came to my wedding. Now, first off, he pressured me into inviting him to my wedding. I signed with the Browns in April. My wedding is in June. I don't know this dude. He's not on my invitation list. He finds out I'm getting married. He'd be like, man, that'd be really cool to come to that wedding, man. I'm like, yeah, we'll have a good time. And he just kept texting me like, yeah, so I hope you have a good time at the wedding. I know I would have a good time at your wedding. So eventually I was like, yo, man, you want to come to my wedding? He's like, yep. Sounds good. I already got my suit. See you there. He danced for 4 straight hours, Juju. I'm talking about did not take a seat. He was drenched in sweat. Everyone was like, yo, who is that dude that never left the dance floor? And if I could go back, I'd be like, that is the future head coach of the Miami Dolphins down there doing a stanky leg like you've never seen in your life.
There you go. Mike McDaniel doing the stanky leg at Andrew, I think it's Andrew Hawkins' wedding.
Yes.
That he's talking to there, right? That's pretty cool. That's a cool story. And honestly, it does fit the personality of Mike McDaniel. He would invite himself to your wedding and then dance the night away at your damn wedding.
Rod, are you a wedding fan? Or do you like going to weddings? Or are you not going?
I like going to weddings. No, okay. I love going to weddings. I like the promise of, it's not always young love, but the promise of, love and, the commitment. I love I love being around the vibe and the energy of a wedding. It's always fun.
I got you. I don't
and
like
when I was
any
single,
of that.
When I was single, I liked it even more.
No,
you don't like it? You're
no,
single.
hate all of that. Hate all of it.
Dude.
You put me at a table with strangers when you're supposed to dance. I don't dance. There's nothing in a wedding other than an open bar that says Patrick. Nothing. The open bar is the only thing there that I have any appreciation for. And even that, I'm like, well, I don't want to be just sloppy drunk in a suit at somebody else's wedding. So normally I'm not a huge, I try to avoid them unless I'm a part of them.
I would say this, as a single man, you should like it because ladies, when single ladies go to weddings, they're feeling very romantic. They almost get in the mood naturally just being at a wedding. And there's less work for you to do hitting on a woman at a wedding than there is in any other situation or atmosphere because the women are so ready. They're just ready.
Which is true.
They're ready. They're thinking their mind is on love. Their mind is on making love. The wedding is a great spot to meet women. That's why I'll say the single.
Younger Patrick cared more about that. Older Patrick is way too lazy to try and fake it. No, I just walk up now and I'm like, "Do you watch the game last night?" They're like, "I'm not into sports." I'm like, "See you later." I'm gonna go over there and talk. I'm gonna go over there and watch the game on my phone.
That's true. But yeah, I remember picking up chicks was easy at a wedding. That was really easy.
I got one
It
more.
was
It's a
like
quick
taking
clip for
candy from
you.
a baby.
One more quick clip for you, Rod,
Give it to
for a who said that for you.
Yeah, it's been great. It's like I say every time, it's a dream come true. If you told me when I was 5 years old going to the, or what was I, 9 years old going to the Mac Brown football camp that I'd be playing basketball here in 10 plus years, I wouldn't have believed you. So it's been great, honestly. The dream come true.
All right, Rod, who said that?
The Mac Brown football camp? Oh, I don't. It's not Dylan DeSue, is it?
It is Dylan DeSue.
That was Dylan DeSue.
Dylan DeSue talking about
Whoa.
going to his senior night tomorrow night and the dream that it's been to play at Texas, saying he was at Mac Brown's football camp when he was 9 years old.
What position was he?
I don't know, but I
playing?
mean, he lived out. He went to Vandergrift up north,
know.
so
I'm
he's
trying to think what position he would have been playing. Tight end, maybe? Or
maybe. I mean,
D-line?
at nine, who knows? He could have been a quarterback, a running back, or anything at 9.
I don't know because he was really athletic and
Yeah.
he had a growth spurt right later on in his
Yeah.
life, that kind of thing. All right, there you go, my man Patrick, always keeping us on our toes. Patrick, thank you for all your hard work, brother, and great week of shows. Can't wait to do it again next week. Thank all you guys out there for listening. We really appreciate y'all. We'll try to have a great weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Please be safe. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. Coming back Monday, same time, same channel. Talking all things sports, Longhorns, Cowboys. We'll be doing it big. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for a great week of shows. We love you guys. Peace.